Yeah, intro time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to something I never thought I would be saying again for the rest of my life. Episode 34 of the Eternia Archives podcast. Pretty excited to be here with some long term friends from the Eternia Archives community. It may not be the original five of us, but there are, most of us have been in the server for a long time. So I'm happy to get started with these fine folks. Today, we are talking about our top 5 Nintendo Switch games. But before we get into that, let's do some introductions. So, most of you know who I am. I've been keeping the server running for the last 4 years. Callie here. Started streaming again like 4 weeks ago after a 2-year hiatus. So, small midlife crisis. Things are getting better. No more problems there. And pretty hyped to get to be here with everybody today. So next up, it looks like we have Sky right above me here. So Sky, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Callie. Good to be here. My first podcast that I've been on, really with the Eternia Archives and any podcast really. So really excited to share my top 5 Switch games. Been into JRPGs and video, back into gaming since like 2019. So I'm kind of new to it all, but excited to go over the Switch games and just glad to be on the podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, happy to have you here. How about the doctor?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt. When it's the internet, I go by Dr. Cornbone. I have streamed in the past before, but no, most of my free time is playing Helldivers and Fortnite with my partner. So you can look at my Twitch if you want to. You can click on a link. There's probably some VODs of me playing Doom from years ago. But other than that, I'm just here having a good time. I like the Switch, so this is gonna be fun.
Nice. Next up, we have Runt.
Hello. I'm Runt. I stream occasionally, and I've recently just gotten back into playing Switch games. So we'll see how much my list differs from everyone else's.
Lane, you're up.
Hey everyone, I'm known as Lane Wolf. I'm one of the oldest members probably. I don't really like any streams or YouTubes or whatnot, but I'm just part of the podcast because I know a lot of people in here and I'm excited to share some Switch games.
And then last but certainly not least, Soul.
Hello, everyone. Soulbag Greg here, local VTuber swing dancer. Looking forward to hanging out with everybody on the return of the Eternia Archives podcast. Pretty excited to take part of today's topic, especially since I haven't been on the podcast in 3 years. So it's a pretty exciting return, and looking forward to all the interactions.
Awesome. Well, it's pretty interesting, really, because Lane and I and Sky and is there anybody else in this? Soul. We actually met on the Eric Lane and RPG Discord way back. I know Lane and I met there like 6 years ago. I think Sky and Soul joined probably about a year or so after I was then there. And then the Eternia Archives actually started because myself, Rad, the Laninator, Hiha's Gaming, and Inashi decided that since Eric did not want to do a podcast with us, that we were like, hey, we're gonna have our own podcast with Blackjack and Hookers. That's basically how the Eternia Archive started. The only reason it started is because Eric said he would not do a show with us. And I worked with Nick, Hiha's Gaming, rest in peace. and we started the server up back in July of 2020. If y'all can remember, way back then, the world was a very different place in 2020, the middle of high middle of the pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
and we all got together and we had 33 episodes of the show. Soul was on. You were on a couple episodes, Soul. Lane was on a couple. Then I was there for pretty much all of them, I think. We worked on getting everything set back up over the last week, so if you're listening to this in the future, it's probably on Spotify or some other similar podcast streaming program, and we are very happy to have you here. And if you like putting up with our interesting opinions on things, please consider joining our Discord that has got a lot of activity always, especially if you're a gacha gamer. There's more text in there than I could keep up with. A couple of days ago, I had like 400 chat messages to read, and I was like, "Oh my god, can you all calm down? I can't keep up with all this." Anyway, so let's get started on our top 5 Switch games. So everybody want to start with number 5, I would assume, yeah?
That works for me.
Well, I will
Yeah.
take the screen up here, and I will show my 5th game, which is Pokemon Legends Arceus. I really liked this game. I was a huge fan of Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think it was a good redefining of the Pokemon genre. I played Pokemon since I was a kid. Blue, red. I started way back there. Loved Silver. You could go, you got all the badges, and you got to the second world in Silver, and it was super exciting. But it was great to see Nintendo finally put out something that was new and interesting, and Pokemon Legends Arceus was absolutely that. You could catch Pokemon in the open world. It was really interesting. It was a lot of fun. Have you all played this game?
I did. I think this game's a good start. Like, I think it's very and I wish that I enjoyed playing it because I think it's really cool. But I'm very interested in what they do next with it because I think it's a really cool spin-off of Pokemon.
Has anybody else played it?
I did
My
play
backlog.
it.
No.
Unfortunately, I
did
haven't.
play. I think I was one of the people that actually liked X and Y, and I think Arceus is like probably the best Pokemon game after X and Y. And they didn't follow it up with the best. Scarlet Violet was not our Sword and Shield, but Arceus was interesting, yeah. It was taken as a spin-off, but I think they could, if they wanted, they could spin it into like its own franchise.
I think they're going to. I think that there's another Legends game similar to this coming out.
Yeah, the Z something. Is the next
Yeah.
It
one.
had the combat was. I did like they changed it that you could use quick or slower versions of the moves on the fly, so you could like adapt to whatever you were fighting. So it was not always the same speed and damage and whatever. I think that was pretty interesting. And you could change the moves basically anywhere. Because Pokemon as a franchise is always you have to go to this specific town and talk to this specific NPC so you can change your audio settings and whatever. So it was a nice change.
Oh yeah. I mean, it looked like a potato on a Switch. Like no
Oh,
one's
yeah.
no one's gonna lie. Like I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 like the last week or two, and holy crap, does it ever look like a Switch game? But it's fun.
Well, I remember this spinning JPEGs of the grass in Arceus.
Yes,
That was funny.
yes.
That was funny.
All
Literally
right.
just a flat texture of a grass.
Yeah, so if you all are fans of Pokemon at all, I would highly recommend this game. It's very different from the rest of the series, and I hope they continue doing more of these. All right. Sky, what's your number 5?
Right. Well, I'm gonna go kind of with my honorable mention, and then I'll give you my number 5. So for honorable mention, I have 2 games. I wanted to bring up Link to the Past and Aria of Sorrow. So I played Aria of Sorrow on the Castlevania collection here. So I got that. Loved that. It was my first game that I played. That was a Castlevania game that I finished. I really love that game. And then Link to the Past I played on the Nintendo Switch Online. Finally beat that. That was like a very big nostalgia game for me. Played that as a kid and never really got very far. But my actual number 5 game is going to be Luigi's Mansion. And I don't know.
3, okay.
Luigi's Mansion 3. It's like super fun. Played it with my kids, but at the same time, I think just the graphics, the going around the haunted mansion, all the different rooms, sucking things up with the vacuum cleaner, and with the ghost, and you can split Luigi into 2, right? You have Guigi and Luigi, and you can play 2-player, and also going up, you could go back and keep trying to go to the top of the haunted mansion and fight like King Boo. There was also online where you could just play with people online doing that the whole time. So that's my number 5. Was lots of fun. It's like you can never really get tired of playing that game. So many collectibles and just like really unique, really cute. Honestly, like for me, I enjoy it better than any Mario game that's on the Switch. Honestly, Luigi is like a Mansion 3 is my number 5 game. It's super fun, and I hope they make a Luigi's Mansion 4 that's even better. The Luigi's Mansion 2 one I'm not too interested in. I don't really know how they can top 3, but that's my number 5 there. Has anyone else had a chance to play that?
So
I love everything in this franchise. Like all 3 of these games, I think are excellent. And I think 3, you had mentioned playing it with your kids. I think 3's multiplayer is actually perfect for that, where you have, all these puzzles and everything you can kind of solve yourself, but you can have a kid drop in almost as like a co-pilot mode or something like that. And I think it's like a really easy game for a series that you wouldn't necessarily expect it from. And I think it's really awesome.
I've only played the first Luigi's Mansion on GameCube. It was actually the game I got at launch on the GameCube. I really enjoyed it. I don't remember beating it. I bought Luigi's Mansion 3 on Black Friday like 2 or 3 years ago. Have I unwrapped it? No. I think it's still in the wrapping. But I really think it's a good concept from what you were describing, Sky, and I want to play it eventually. So, what does the Goo Luigi do that's different than, like, do you still get to use the vacuum and stuff in that mode, or is it different?
Yeah, you get to use everything. I think that the original Luigi has, except you now have 2 people that, and there are actually times, even as a 1-player game, you have to morph into Guigi and go, like, you can go through walls or things like that, or you can like melt underneath like grates. So you have to like separate, like kind of out of body experience type of thing. So that's pretty cool. And I actually have never beat the game. I just like drop in and help my kids out, or I play just a few times, or play the competitive one where you the co-op one where you play online. I have never actually played through the whole game, but just going to like each floor or each room is like almost like its own little video game to me. And yeah, it's just really fun that way.
That's cool. Lane, Rat, Soul, have you all played it?
I have not played the third one. I'd like to though. I played and beat the first one also on the GameCube, and I really like that just the gameplay loop. I haven't had a chance to play any of the other ones since then, but 3 is definitely one that sounds like it's a really good one to follow up with. So I'll definitely have to give that a look sometime soon.
I can't really say because I never played a single Luigi game ever. So
It's a surprise to literally no one here, buddy. No one is surprised by that.
Oh well.
It's a perfect Halloween game, I think.
I was surprised.
Okay, so
That will surprise people,
So the joke in Eternia, if for those of you that don't live in our Discord every day, if it's a main Nintendo property, Lane doesn't like it. So that's the joke.
Oh,
I usually didn't play it because I'm just not interested in their first party characters, to be like honest.
So Sky reminded me of something. I didn't give my honorable mention, so I asked Cricket, my fiance, if she wanted to be on the podcast, and she's like, "No, I only play like a few Switch games." But you give an honorable mention to Stardew Valley for me. She loves cozy games. I do not like cozy games. They actually stress me out. I like having games with goals. But Stardew Valley, a lot of people love Stardew Valley. There's a new patch that came out recently for the PC version, like a mod. So if you like cozy games, go play Stardew. All right. Doctor, do you want to go by the Doctor, like Doctor Who, or do you want to go by Matt? What do you want me to call you?
What's the most awkward for you to call me? Like to get my like is Doctor Sir. Could you like whatever is most awkward for you?
Most awkward. All right.
No, you can call me whatever. And be like, hey, what's a video game? Yeah, I don't care.
Dr. Corn, the Corn Doctor.
Yeah, there you go.
The Corn Doctor.
Just put it backwards for the rest of this. So that'll be great.
All right. So what about you? What's your either honorable mention or fifth?
Okay, so if we got honorable, so here's the thing. I think the Switch is an incredible device, and I think the lineup on it is really good. I think this is the hardest that Nintendo has been going in a very long time. And I think 5 games, when I started looking at the list, it started to hurt me because there's one game that is number 6, and I can't believe that it's number 6, but number 6 for me is Metroid Dread. And that, so Super Metroid's my favorite game of all time. And after Metroid Fusion, it just seemed to be a franchise that was done. Metroid 4 was the last one. There wasn't going to be another mainline 2D Metroid game. And if there was, it was not going to live up to my favorite game of all time. Metroid Dread absolutely does. I think it's excellent. I think about the ending sequence of that game quite often because I think it's just awesome. Like I'm just blasting through the end of that game with like my jaw agape. And I just think it's an excellent video game and everybody should play it. But it's also, who am I? Who needs to be told to play Metroid Dread, So that it's number 6 for me for a lot of reasons. I just wanted to say that Metroid Dread is excellent. It's very good. If you were thinking about it, you do that. Okay, so that aside, for me, for number 5, when I started putting together this list, I realized that I've got maybe like 3 of these that aren't a game, like a single game. But that's okay because it's my list and it's going to make sense. So just get ready for this. Number 5 for me is Picross S. It is. There's like 11 of these games. These are Jupiter. They've been doing the Picross games for a long time. And for me, it's one of the examples of where the Switch is just a really flexible device. And for years and years for myself, the last hour or so that I'm awake, I'm just in bed with my Switch playing Picross puzzles. And it is, like they range from very simple to, I'm going to take 3 days to figure out this puzzle. If you've never played Picross before, you can play Mario's Picross if you have access to the Game Boy library on Nintendo Switch Online. Give it a shot. It's very simple to pick up and understand, but they do get very complicated. And that was, for me, that was the primary use of my Switch very early on, was, just doing this every day.
I mean, I've never even heard of this game.
Picross, Picross is like the brand name of what this is, but these are nonogram puzzles. So you see the numbers that go across the top and the side. You look at those numbers, and that's where you like color in the boxes to create a picture. And you have to look at the numbers to know where the actual colored blocks go in.
Huh.
But yeah, it's just like a really simple puzzle game. They made a whole lot of them, and they kept putting them out like yearly for $8, and I was like, okay, well, here's another year of like 200 more puzzles for me to work on while I fall asleep.
That's
And I
cool.
can do that on the Switch because the Switch is a handheld device.
Has anybody else played this?
I never played it, but I heard about it just a few weeks ago. I was watching some videos on YouTube randomly, and I've heard about the franchise. Yeah, it looks interesting. It's just a puzzler, pretty much.
Yeah, totally. Like they're $8, so you can jump into it for almost no money. But also, they have the Game Boy version as part of the subscription. So if you're already on that, you can totally just give it a shot.
That's
Oh, I see.
cool.
Yeah, I haven't played it either, but it seems like Doctor was saying those who like it like they play all of them. Like they try to play as many of those, or like this. I guess there's a subscription service or something. But yeah, whenever I hear there's a new Picross out, whoever I know that likes Picross is always mentioning, "Hey, there's a new one. Who's got it?"
I just realized you have, is that a signed Xenogears art on your wall there, Sky?
I don't think it's real. It's from like a magazine, like
Okay.
an old like gaming magazine.
All right. Well, it's
So
still
I don't think it's a
cool.
real. Yeah, it's like a quote
So,
from Xenogears.
so for Metroid Dread, I had the Collector's Edition. It actually got damaged. Like, that's another meme in Eternia. Every time I get a Collector's Edition in the mail, they get damaged. That one got damaged. I opened it, I looked at it, I said, yep, that's a game. That's a game I'm gonna play eventually. I might pick it up. Might play it eventually because the doctor said it was important to play.
That's right.
All right, Runt. What's your honorable mention and or top 5? Your 5th.
So I have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is Mario Kart 8. Reason why it's there is because I play it with a lot of my friends. Just when we're kind of burnt out on other games, and it's always a fun time when you absolutely screw someone with a red shell or a blue shell. Um, and then the second one I have is a game that came out within the last 2 years, I think. Bravely Default 2. Um, it it's an interesting game. Um, I kind of just mess around and run around in like the forest and stuff, just kind of looking for monsters.
All right. So what's your actual number 5?
And then my number 5 is Pokemon Sword. It was kind of like my introduction more to the Pokemon games because I've grown up playing Xbox. And for what it was at the time, it was fun. But now, now that it's something 3-4 years into the future, it's still a pretty good game, in my opinion.
So I bought the Sword Shield double pack. I proceeded to start with Sword, and I got like 5 hours into it. Typical Callie. Yeah, that right there, Sky. And I was like, wow, this sucks. I'm sorry, Runt.
I like it too. It was my gateway drug to Pokemon, I think, as well. My first one. That might be some blasphemous to a lot of you, but like Ron said, that got me into the meta, the TCG, everything. There was a lot to do in that game and a lot going on at that time with Pokemon. It felt like, at least for me, it was my first one, but it felt like a lot. They were putting a lot of effort into bringing Pokemon back if it wasn't, already there. But yeah, that's what got me into Pokemon was Pokemon Sword and Shield too.
That's very wholesome. I just shit on your
Yeah.
game. I'm sorry.
I've played Sword as well. I mean, I finished. If I like ignore the whole wild area, the game in like the locations between the towns and some of the towns, they actually looked pretty good. The wild area was just, yeah, a thing. But I finished the game, and I remember like made a whole bug team that I pretty much bred to perfection. I don't even know why. It's just it was fun at the time. So
Yeah, I was really hyped. I think they
like
hyped it really well.
like full EV, IV, all that stuff that I just wasted time on for no reason. But like the game itself was alright. I think the wild area was, and they carried over to the new games. And it didn't make it better.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like Sword. I will probably have something else to say about Pokemon later. But Sword is the first Pokemon game that I completed since Yellow.
oh
And
wow.
I had a really great time with it.
Yeah, so Pokemon Sword for me was I consider it like my very first true Pokemon experience. Which doesn't say I haven't been a fan of Pokemon. I've been a fan since like the mid 90s or the mid to late 90s when it first came out. But the problem is I never had a Nintendo handheld. So I only consumed like the other media, like the anime, the TCG and stuff. But I always was kind of felt like I was like the kid at the windowsill watching all the other kids have fun with Pokemon outside on their Game Boys and stuff. And so that was kind of my experience for Pokemon for years, decades even. And then eventually Sword and Shield comes out on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, oh, I should probably look into getting this, you know. And I got a chance to play some of the other Pokemon games like a little bit, but they're like years after their prime, and they were still fun. But it felt like I was kind of like catching up on stuff. I never really got too far in them. But Sword and Shield was like my first like it felt like my first true introduction of actually like jumping in when it just comes out, and it was. I know it's not great by a lot of people that have been with the franchise for a long time, but for me, I don't know, I was enjoying it.
I think that's the thing, though. The people who played all the previous games and then they got Sword, they were disappointed. But like
Yeah.
as an entrance game, I think it's not bad. Again, the Vile area is just like it was a meme, but overall as a game, I don't think Sword was like a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that's played like the first 5 generations or 6, was I stopped playing heavily after Platinum. That's the last game that I was like, okay, Pokemon can't get better from here, and really, in my opinion, it hasn't, except for Arceus. So, as somebody that's been playing it for most of my life, it just felt like more of the same, and wasn't really
It's Pokemon in
revolutionary.
general.
Yeah, it's Pokemon. Yes, exactly.
But I mean, like a lot of people love Black and White, and I've put like I don't know, a couple hours in Black, and I hated it. I dropped it because and it's a lot of people love the games, and I just couldn't get past like the first 3 or 4 areas. I absolutely hated the sprites, the way they make the sprites move in the games. I thought it was ugly, so I couldn't deal with it.
Oh no.
You know, it's preferences.
All right. Well, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I'm sorry for crapping on your game. Um,
Also,
late.
just real quick, the gym trainer battle music in this game is excellent. It's
Oh, the
10 out of
music,
10.
yeah.
In Sword, absolute banger.
Yes.
Somebody should go
The
post
like
the
the
link in
trainer.
Eternia so I can listen to it later.
You haven't heard. You have to. The trainer battle music is amazing.
All right, Lane. So you're up next. What's your honorable mention / top 5? 5th.
Right. The honorable mention for me is a bit. It's an older game, but it was re-released on Switch, and it's the Paten Kaitos duology. And it's an honorable mention because I didn't finish it yet. But what I've played so far, um, it's pretty unique. The card system took me a while to understand it because everything in the game is based on cards, not just combat. Absolutely everything, even outside of combat and story items are cards. equipment, cards, everything. So it took me a few hours to get around to it. But like once I understood it, it's one of the more unique JRPGs that I've ever played, I think.
Yeah, I played it on the
Um,
GameCube. It was good.
yeah, I'm still on the first one. Then I have to play the Origins, which is again apparently has a different combat system. So,
Yep.
but yeah, they look great, I must say. The performance on the Switch is not the best, but it's not unplayable. It's those are maybe when I finish them they will be higher, but for now, pretty good. My actual number 5 is Astral Chain, which came out of nowhere. I started playing it because the combat system was made by Platinum Games, which is always a plus. And they didn't disappoint with the combat. Controlling your characters and the Legion at the same time allows for some really, really fun combos and you had like 5 of them or whatnot, each with different abilities. So that was pretty good. I like the exploration as well. Even though it was instanced, the maps were varied enough, and you had to use different legions for their on-field abilities as well. I really like the art style of it as well. It's like the whole cell shading thing looks really cool. The story was a bit lacking, but like overall, it was a really fun game to play. And I hope that there will be more because it feels like it has been kind of abandoned.
Yeah,
But
I liked Astral Chain. I got to the point probably like 10 or 11 hours in, and when you had to start controlling too many different legions at once during combat, and my brain was like, can't do that, Star Fox. It's
it,
too much.
it is, yeah, it can get quite hectic at times because different enemies are weak to certain legions, so you have to swap in combat as well.
You had to swap, and you had to like rope around the enemies while
Yes,
moving, and it was a lot. It's a lot.
yeah, you were controlling 2 characters at the same time, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, once you get used to it though, like you could do some really fun combos. But yeah, I don't know how it was like popular or like how much it sold or whatnot, but it feels like ever since it released, there was nothing from the franchise. So sadly, I don't think we will get another one.
Yeah. Anybody
Yeah,
else play this?
yeah,
Uh,
that was a really unique one from them. Yeah, I played it. I enjoyed the parts that I played, but yeah, it starts getting into areas where it starts getting a little hectic with what's required of you, you know. And yeah, eventually I ended up playing some other stuff. I think other stuff was coming out at the time, and I never got a chance to go back and play it. I really should consider going back to play it. I was considering possibly putting this on my top 5, but it didn't quite make it on there. Um, just because I didn't really get too far in it, you know, and I didn't play it for a whole lot. But the time I did, I thought it was super unique, and yeah, I definitely need to go back and play it.
yeah, I got this game back when I used to work at a job where they gave me video games for free, and I played it for a couple of minutes. There was something. It's been too long. Did this game have like tiny text or something like that, like really tiny menu text, or there was something that like I played it for 10 minutes. I was like, okay, I need to not play this right now because this isn't the right way to do it, and I just haven't since.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
played
remember.
it for a bit as well. I played co-op with my oldest daughter, and it was fun. I like going through like the police area, the precinct. That was cool. And I think we did like got to a boss battle. We never picked it back up, but I had a good time, and it was fun playing co-op. I didn't play that much single player, but I love the graphics. It it kind of felt a little Parasite Eve-ish, I guess, with the cop thing for me. but it was a good time. I can't wait to go back to it actually.
I completely forgot this game actually had co-op.
Yeah,
We
same, to be
we
honest.
said co-op, my mouth dropped. I'm like, what? Wait a minute, this game had co-op?
I
Oh
think
my
you,
gosh, I need to try it out.
I think a second player controls the Legion, if I recall.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that sounds great.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really
maybe
neat.
I might need to play this game tomorrow.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
local
That's pretty
co-op
good.
only, or is it online?
I think it's local only.
Ah, shit.
Ah,
You were
damn,
thinking what I was thinking, Soul.
Yeah, I was like, Callie, why aren't we
Yeah,
playing?
Soul Cal, let's go.
Ah, man.
Well, this was good. Like
Yeah.
this, I actually considered putting this if we were gonna do top 10. As I was looking on my shelf of games, this was like I need to go back and play this. I might start over again. Like
fun.
Xenoblade 3 today. I got to the point like half of my stream today was in menus. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this right now.
Mhm.
Well, that's Xenoblade in like.
Yeah.
That's Xenoblade, yeah. Welcome to menus. Cool. Thanks, Lane, for
Yeah,
bringing us back
I
to
think-
this one. I think we're all gonna start playing it again.
I hope
I
you
was
will.
literally just about to say, I'll definitely probably start a new campaign in it and stream it.
Yeah, maybe too.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Neon Genesis Evangelion JoJo's. That's basically the game to me.
Yeah, Soul, be sure to tell us in Eternia when you're gonna stream this, and we'll
Absolutely.
watch, see how it goes. Speaking of Soul, you're up. What's your honorable mention or flesh fifth?
All right. So my honorable mention, I actually had two. One of them we literally just discussed. So yeah, it was the Astral Chain was one of the honorable mentions.
All right.
Another honorable mention, which just got beat out just because of the uniqueness of this other game, is actually I know our Eternia Archives is very big on RPGs, and I don't always have the best record of RPGs, especially like beating them. But this series actually got my start into RPGs in general for video games, and that was the Secret of Mana. So when they released the Collection of Mana on the Nintendo Switch, I immediately had to jump on it. You know, all the games, all the classic games, they're available on the Switch. You know, especially with the unreleased Trials of Mana actually getting a Western release. You know, it was like, oh, this is too good. This is too good to be. This is too good to be true. You know. Great action RPG game. I like to tease that in a way Secret of Mana was back then how the Kingdom Hearts games are kind of like now, you know. Very fun action RPG game series that for me, you know, Secret of Mana was you know, my first and always be my favorite. I'm just getting into Trials, but you know, for all of its flaws, you know, I absolutely love Secret of Mana. And the fact that you can do co-op with the other characters in the game in a real-time action RPG, it just blew my mind, right? And so that would have made my fifth, or yeah, that would have been on my top fifth. However, this other game nudged it out just barely, just because of how unique this particular one was. Because I've owned different copies of Secret of Mana over the years, you know, the original SNES version, um, the remake they released not too long ago, and the collection stuff like that. You know, so I've played Secret of Mana at various platforms. So you know, I can play it at other places, not just the Switch. This particular game that I have as my fifth, I've only been able to play it because it was released. At least that I have the capability to play it on the Switch, and maybe a little blasphemous here as we're talking about Nintendo, but it just happens to be Nintendo's rival, and that would be the M2 Sega Ages version of the original Phantasy Star. Phantasy Star was originally released on the Sega Master System. I didn't have that. All the other Phantasy Star games that I've been getting back into, I have seen a wide release on all sorts of platforms, even on your phone, although I don't know if they support that anymore. However, they always leave out Phantasy Star, the original one. You know, they always see it in collections of like the Genesis and stuff, but I don't really see it anywhere else except for maybe like Japanese releases. And the M2 version of this release on the Nintendo Switch added a bunch of interesting little Easter eggs and helpful manuals and some quality of life upgrades, and just made it playable. You know, gave me a chance to actually dive into the original Phantasy Star, which is a very unique RPG game. As the first one was like a mix between your typical overworld kind of JRPG experience and then a dungeon crawler, you know, first person dungeon crawler, which the franchise hasn't gone back to since. And I've been recently getting into like old school and new versions of the classic dungeon crawl first person dungeon crawl game. And so being able to actually play it, especially when I got sick with COVID for a couple weeks, this was like my go-to comfort game. So for all those reasons, for me personally, that's why I put it on my top 5th.
And I wasn't expecting a 1988 classic to be here
Game is
today.
old as I am.
I don't think that's not going to be the oldest one on the list either. I don't think.
Really? Wow.
Game is old as me.
Uh,
I never got to play the original Phantasy Star. But I've played the online ones. Well, quote unquote online. They were like PSP games or something.
Mm.
I've played those co-op with the friends a lot, even though they were pretty simple. But man, we put so many hours into those games. But
Yeah,
the original ones, I never got to play those. So I heard the fourth one is like a classic.
yeah, yeah. The fourth one, the community really looks to the fourth one as like the pinnacle of the
Yeah.
non-online versions of Fantasy Star, and the
Pretty
third
much.
one's the weird oddity, you know, which is actually pretty unique the way the gameplay works and like the different eras. But yeah, it wasn't like sci-fi fantasy enough, whereas all the other games had that real unique kind of, you know, it's like fantasy, but it's like fantasy in space, you know, so it was really unique.
Interesting.
Yeah, when people talk about like Fantasy Star, I'm thinking of like, 2 and on. Like, I don't think I've ever seen this game before. And just like looking at the screenshots and stuff, I definitely want to pick this up because this looks cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I own 3. I have Phantasy Star 3 for Genesis. Like, I think I have a complete inbox. I have all the PSO variants that you can imagine. I've got PSO, I've got the version 1 and 2, I've got episode 1 and 2 on GameCube and Xbox, and I've got online episode 3, the Card Revolution. I've got the PSP version, the PSU for 2 different systems. Like, I loved Phantasy Star Online. I love the shit out of that game. But the old ones, the old Phantasy Stars, I just couldn't get into them. But I am glad to see this make the list today.
I really want to play those too. I haven't. They're on my backlog, but they're high on my list to try to play.
So, I think we went through
Yeah,
everybody's
definitely worth it.
5th. Everyone's went through their number 5. Yeah? Okay. Well, my number 4 is a game I don't even know if you all have heard of. It was a time where Nintendo let somebody else work with their IP. And that's a very rare situation. And that game is Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer. So if you haven't played this
Oh.
game, if you have not played this game, it is just incredible. It is Zelda, but you're playing to the music beat, so you move to the steps of the music that's happening, and you attack on beat, and if you don't, like, you have bad things happen, and you'll get hit and not dodge. Like, the whole entire game is played on a beat, and you know me, music neurodivergent self over here, I love those music-oriented games, and Cadence of Hyrule, just this game is just one of the coolest things. They came out with an expansion to it to where you could play as like the evil wizard, and I picked it up. I got like 3/4 of the way through it and I stopped for some reason. I guess because he was so much broken compared to like the other characters, like way overpowered compared to them. So, yeah. Has anybody else played this?
Absolutely. My one of my favorite one of my favorites is original Crypton the Necrodancer. And the thing that when this got announced, like the thing that hit me first, like the hardest, was like, oh, they're making another Necrodancer game. That's awesome. And yeah, Zelda, that's gonna be some good music. That's gonna be a good time. Um, yeah, this game's excellent. This would be like on a top 10 for me.
I am glad you appreciate it. You're a man of culture, I see.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've heard about it, but you lost me at, it's Zelda.
It's Zelda, but it's
I know what it is. Yeah, it's like a rhythm game.
it's so
Yeah,
good
I don't.
though, Lane. It's so
I've
good.
heard about it. I've seen it. Like I know how it looks like and all that. It's unique for sure.
Yeah, I
When you
didn't play
mentioned,
it.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've never played it. I watched some streams of it. It seemed really fun. I was trying to make a little rhythm game, develop a little rhythm game, and that was one of the inspirations I was trying to learn about how that was done. But it seems like a really fun game and really challenging. Honestly, like it seems like like a little too hard for me just by watching that. Like trying to match the rhythm, and you're in a dungeon. Seems like a really challenging game.
It's so good. Like once you get it, and like I used to play in Dance Dance Revolution tournaments, so like rhythm based games is something I excel at. Soul and I probably the next time. Did you end up getting sound? Whatever.
I did.
I think maybe that should be our next streaming game. So I
Yeah.
beat it like day one. Like when that game first came out, I played it until I beat it. It's so good. I love sound based games. So if you like games that are rhythm based, you can usually get Crypt of the Necrodancer for basically free. It's always on sale. But if you ever see this and you think it looks like something that would be fun, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have the Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I never got a chance to play Cadence of Hyrule. Does that game offer online co-op by chance?
No, it's solo only.
Ah, dang.
And you would have to have one hell of an internet connection to play something like this co-op. Like, if there's a
Yeah,
glitch, you're gonna die.
that's true.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
good though.
I'll definitely need to check it out. For a moment,
Really?
I thought that when you said that Nintendo actually handed this the Zelda property over to someone else for once, I'm like, oh man, she's gonna mention Legend of Zelda and the Faces of Evil. Heck yeah.
No, we're mentioning Crypt of the Necrodancer. Oh. Sky, what's your number 4?
All right. Well, I was gonna mention some honorable mentions for each one, but I think I'm just gonna cheat and make this number 4 3 games actually at once. Uh, and there's a connection here. So we'll start with this one. We talked about this already, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail. Pokemon Sword and Shield. I was really into the meta, but we were talking about the music, and I really liked the music. And of course, some of these tracks were done by Toby Fox, which Undertale, one of my first RPGs, first Switch games I played, and I don't know, it's just I played the pacifist route because my kids were like not allowing me to kill any monsters, I guess, in the game. So it was just really interesting. The dialogue was super cool. The characters were created really really uniquely, and it was just a fun little game. And of course, like the lore and the fact that it was an indie developer just seemed really interesting. And the fact that you had a chance, right? You could kill everyone, you could be a pacifist, and it wasn't a Pokemon game like a monster collecting game, but it was still monsters and what do you do with these monsters. But Moon, I guess if I had to pick between the three for my number 4, I guess Moon would be my number 4 because it was, I guess, the originator, I think, of or where Toby Fox took a lot of inspiration from. And instead of catching monsters and killing them, you try to resurrect these monsters. Like they were already killed, and you try to resurrect their souls when you find them all. But you can collect all these CDs with like these unique indie musicians that created the music for this game. You can collect all the songs in the game. The characters are almost Undertale looking ish in terms of design, and it's really trippy, a really trippy game as well. And I don't think they were supposed to get published by Sony, but then something happened, I think, where they at the end Sony decided not to publish it, or it got a very limited release, and then was recently released, and I think it was translated a few years ago. But I would say Moon, I guess, out of the three, is my number 4. It's just a really awesome game. It is challenging because you have a day and the night system, so you only have a certain amount of time, like a certain amount of steps you can take every time you wake up, and then you have to go back to bed. Otherwise, if you don't go back to bed before your time runs out, you die, and you walk really, really slow. And then it's only by catching or saving more monsters that you can walk faster, and that's when it starts to pick up. I did have to use a guide for sure to figure out how to get through this game, but I highly recommend it if you want to kind of play something avant-garde-ish in terms of a video game. But it could be frustrating for some, but I would check out the video or watch a let's play of it to see if you'd like it. But that's my overall, that's my number 4 is Moon. What is it? Moon, the RPG, Moon RPG. So that it's just, to me, it's a beautiful game.
I've heard of this game. I've heard of it. It looks interesting.
Yeah, it's really unique, obscure, and like I said, it's kind of avant-garde. It's like, like I said, that I don't. They must have been tripping or something when they were making this game, because it's really, really weird. Oh, and the way they talk, it's like they mashed a bunch of different languages together. So it's like you're watching, again, a French avant-garde cartoon. If with in the art style, if you hear them talk, they're like, they might be speaking in English, or they might be speaking in French or German, but they just mash all those words together, and you don't know what they're saying. So they almost kind of develop their own like little language there.
So I don't know if you're looking at the screen I have up, but is it the game that I have up here, the
Yeah,
1997?
that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's old.
Yeah, and I never would have played it, right, unless it was on easy to play on the Switch.
Nice.
The one I have is the Japanese, the collector's edition, but it's really, I would say, at least if anything, like the music, the indie artists that made the music, I wish they had a soundtrack. They don't have a soundtrack, but you can look it up on YouTube and listen to all the songs from the game.
That's cool.
I don't
Anybody
think I
else?
ever heard about. I don't think I ever heard about it. I'm looking on like the pictures, and I don't think I've ever seen it before.
Yeah, this is another
So
new one to me. This looks awesome.
Yeah, check it out. It takes, if you're willing to get through the tediousness of it, is again kind of a tedious game, but it has so much heart in it, and it's definitely worth it.
Cool. Well, I didn't expect to find a game on the list. I've heard of it at least. I just
Yeah.
haven't played it. Anybody else about Moon? Okay. Well, the doctor, Corn Man over there in the corner, Sir Corn.
Hi, it's me again.
What's your number
I'm
4?
glad. Yeah, I'm glad that so many people are picking games that are older than the Switch. Because when I sat down to build a list, I realized that some of the games that I was putting on there, you know, they're on the list because of the hardware itself. And for me, I like old games. I like emulation. I like playing a lot of old games. The Switch was a good way to do that, especially early on, um, because it's a device that, when you think about why PC gaming is really good, it's the flexibility to kind of play the games that you want to play the way that you want to. And then the Switch comes out, and it's almost more flexible than a PC was at the time. You have this handheld that does motion and touch and all of that all together. Anyways, so for me, for number 4, when I started thinking about, what hit me the hardest and what was, something that I spent a lot of time on, and the Switch was just the perfect place to play it. Money Puzzle Exchanger, which is an arcade puzzle game, um, that was released under the Arcade Archives series, where Hamster has taken a whole bunch of
I
old
love that
arcade
series.
games. They add, online leaderboards. They'll put together the different versions of the game. If there's like, Japanese or like revision 1 point whatever, they'll put all that stuff into a collection for like $7, something like that. It's a pretty simple, really fast-paced puzzle game, and it was something that I probably sunk like another 100 hours into on just the Switch. Um, and it's excellent. There's another game that's kind of like it, Drop, Magical Drop, uh, by Data East. Kind of the same thing where you're a little dude at the bottom, and you grab the coins, and then you shoot the coins back up to make a matching row, and you just have to do that faster than the person next to you, which is either an AI or it's a player two. Um, but just like a really quick, really fast paced puzzle game that's, you know, you can do it competitive or you can do it solo and just get real good at it, and realize that you've lost hours of your life to it. Um,
Really,
yeah,
you weren't
yeah,
kidding when you said, "Hey, this list is wholly mine." I'm like, I've never heard of this shit. What is this?
yeah. Money
Those
Puzzle
Arcade
Exchanger
Archives games
is
are great.
yes, yeah, and particularly on the Switch, they were able to do Nintendo's arcade games, um, which is also really really cool.
I
They had
recognize this picture on screen right now. I've seen this like
so this is
picture.
Magical Drop here,
Yeah,
right?
it's Magical Drop. I
Okay, yeah,
never knew where that came from.
yep, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right then.
Almost like a puzzle bobble type of situation, but you're not having to really aim the launcher at the bottom. Like you're just, going row by row and grabbing stuff and shooting it back up to make matches.
Huh. All right. Anybody have thoughts on this?
No, not on that one. It's not the same exactly, but the Puyo Puyo Tetris games on the Switch, put tons of hours into those games. Great co-op games, great online games, just so satisfying. Whether it's the Tetris side or the Puyo, I prefer the Puyo Puyo side myself, but those are great games.
Not to get like totally sidetracked, but the Puyo Puyo Tetris is the first game I imported from Japan in a very long time because it seemed like the thing that would never come out here. But I imported the Vita version, which never did come out here. And then like 2 or so years later, it came out on Switch, and I was like, well, but I was so used to playing it in Japanese, and it's like all these voices are wrong now.
Oh, I'd like to play in Japanese and check it out. I found for Puyo Puyo Tetris, the one that came out on the Switch. Someone did a full analysis of all the dialogue of that game. Um, it's a great game. The second one also was really good too, but
What a thing to do to a Tetris game! Like that's awesome, but
yeah,
man,
I guess it's the characters, and I think
yeah.
it seems like in this case there are some characters in the games you mentioned that are in there as well.
Mhm.
And I think that's what kind of makes it even better is that they got these characters. You're not just playing these games, but there's like a little bit of of character art in there, and maybe some dialogue that makes it a little bit more fun.
Cool. Well, I have no idea what's going to be on your list next. There, Matt. Not a clue. I have no idea.
I think the rest of this list is a little more straightforward, but it's still interesting to me.
I
We'll
mean,
get
it's
there.
interesting. I am learning. I've never heard of this, so. All right, Runt, what do you got for your number 4?
My number 4 is a visual novel called Lover Pretend, released by Access Studios. It it mostly made the list just because I've been into reading visual novels for the past couple years. And I just really like how the story pans out. Just in the way that, I mean, it's a typical visual novel. You have your different routes and everything, different endings. Um, and I just like how each route goes.
That guy with the red hair looks like, I know Lane will know this, from Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun. It looks like the red-haired guy from that anime.
Which one?
I can't think of the guy's name.
No, I know which one you mean, but like, who looks like it?
The red guy. Oh, you're not watching the screen. Okay, sorry. Um, anyway, I've never heard of this. Like, the only visual novel I have completely beaten is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, and if you haven't played 13 Sentinels, go play 13 Sentinels. It's like the one time that Lane's like, Callie, you're wrong. But wait, you're not wrong.
Can you count it as a visual novel?
I mean, it's like half the and half. Anyway, we're talking about Lover Pretend today. So, what really interests you about this one, Ron? I've never heard of this game.
Well, I kind of just saw it on a shelf at GameStop, and it was pre-owned, so kind of cheap. And I was like, yeah, I've been reading visual novels, so I'll try it out, and I ended up actually really liking it.
Cool. I'm gonna have to put this on my to watch page.
I'm not big on visual novels, but like lately I have some ready that I would like to read.
Well, Lane, speaking
uh,
of things that you would like to read, what's your number 4?
my number 4, well, it's another RPG. This time is a strategy RPG. It's Triangle Strategy,
Ah,
which was a bit controversial when it came out because people thought there's a lot of talking apparently in an RPG, which is like,
oh, surprise, surprise.
how is that? Like, how did they dare to do that? But it was, I think it was the pacing because there was fights and there was a lot of story between. At least in the beginning, I think the beginning was slow. Um, it was less fighting and more talking, but it did even out later on. But what I really like about it is the story was very well presented, and it was interesting since you had the different routes, but all like your main cast of characters had their own thoughts pretty much. So they wanted to do something, and you had to try and persuade them if you wanted to do something else, go a different route. But it didn't always, at least in the first playthrough, it didn't always pan out. So sometimes you were quote unquote forced to do something you didn't want to do because majority of your party voted for that. It was much easier to control from the second playthrough. But the first one, I enjoyed it because you never know where the game goes with the story. And even the exploration parts between the fights were still, you could learn a lot if you talk to the NPCs and then actually paid attention to the story, which I assume a lot of people didn't because they were complaining there's a lot of it. So
Well, don't tell
the
Ash to
cast
play
was
it.
great.
Ash would be like, "There's no skip button."
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, the cast itself, they were really, really interesting characters because, again, they all had their own, I don't want to say agenda, but like their own beliefs that they wanted to follow and to do. And like some of them were just, you couldn't persuade them because they were set in their ways. And it was just, it adds a lot of replayability as well because I think there's 3 or maybe 4 routes that you can go through. And it influences even your cast. Like characters come and go, and it's just it was well put together. It was beautiful because it had the 2D HD style. Oh, so it was beautiful. It was, the voice acting was absolutely amazing. Um, I really enjoyed the game. It was a great SRPG that I think a lot of people missed out on because they were complaining about too much dialogue, which is just weird to me.
Yeah, it's a bit strange.
So is this a visual novel?
No, it's a strategy
Uh,
RPG.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But
Oh
it sounds
yeah.
like there's a lot of dialogue there.
Yeah,
I'm really hyped to play this one at some point.
it's, yeah. I mean, again, this, I think the start is a bit slow. Like it takes a while before it gets rolling, but once it does, once the story starts and it starts like introducing the different characters and the different factions and everything, like I think the story is really, really well done.
Anybody else played this? Any thoughts about it?
I did not play this game. My only story with this game is that, as you know, previously working into a store that sold video games, this game had a horrible commercial that would come on with a horrible song every hour or so.
Oh god.
That unfortunately ruined it for me. I thought it looked cool, like because it's got that style, but
Thankfully, I
I did
don't
not
think
want to touch it after that.
I don't think I've heard it, so I was spared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go post if you find the commercial there, Dotcher. Go post it in Discord so we all can experience your suffering.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can only imagine. But I mean, always play these games in Japanese, and like Kelly knows that even when I'm looking at trailers or whatever, I do look at Japanese trailers.
Yeah, if I
I
So
post
when you
it,
said,
yeah.
don't watch
go ahead,
English
Kelly.
trailers and whatnot. So probably that's why I kind of avoid it if it's like an English advertisement.
Okay, I was gonna ask when you said voice acting. So they're talking about the Japanese voice acting.
Yeah, yeah, of
Okay.
course. I mean, yeah, but to me it's like a default
Mhm.
or any other. Like I don't know. For example, Celebrate I played in Korean because that's where the game is from.
Any other thoughts on this game before we move to Souls number 4? All right, Soul, you're up.
Okay. So this game that I have on number 4 is probably one of my favorite in the franchise. I haven't had a chance to play too many of the games, and I know they can be a bit notorious for the difficulty. But what really got me interested in this game was a lot of cool new features and ideas that uh, isn't typical in it, and that game would be the, let's see, bring it up here. That game is Fire Emblem Three Houses. I really like this game on the Switch because it's not often we really get to see like a big, fully developed Fire Emblem game made for console and really kind of take advantage of the power of a console. It's happened like maybe once, I think once or twice, like on the Wii. But this one being a really unique experience for me, the fact that you can pick 3 different factions to experience a completely different story using gameplay mechanics that aren't relegated to a very simple triangle of rock, paper, scissors, you know? It's like, yeah, and my hero uses a sword. Why do half of the guys on the field use axes? You know, it's kind of silly how dumbed down like that mechanic is for me. You know, I like playing a lot of strategy games, real-time strategy, turn-based strategy, and stuff. And so there's a lot of unique ways different weapons come into play. You know, not just a simple kind of triangle. And so this game kind of goes away from that and has unique abilities and stuff linked to all the different weapons. Some weapons do overpower each other just because, you know, the nature of how it's used in formation stuff in combat. But I appreciate that they have that and the fact that they did take the time to not just have like 1v1 fighting on these huge fields, supposed to be like battlefields. Um, Instead, you have the ability to uh, attach a battalion to a particular hero in which they fight alongside them, they enhance them, they can use special abilities to help them out against whoever they're facing. And the game actually bothers animating all that in the background to make it really feel more epic. And so, because of that, I really like Fire Emblem Three Houses, with despite its flaws here and there. You know, I really like its presentation, how far they push the envelope with this game, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites for Fire Emblem.
I have a story about this that's real short. Um, so when this first came out, I got the collector's edition for it, and Inashi also got the collector's edition, except his order got canceled by GameStop. Like they lost his
Oh,
order or something. And I did
dang.
an unboxing video of this specifically because he wanted to be able to see what was in it. Um, I thought it was pretty interesting that like you pick your house. It's like, oh, it's Hogwarts. Pick your choose your adventure, and
I didn't. Yeah.
obviously there's a correct choice.
Hey.
Um,
All right. I'd like to hear the correct choice.
I don't remember who I picked, but I know everybody was obsessed with one of the
Good
houses.
answer.
I legitimately don't remember. My memory is terrible, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm not a huge strategy RPG fan, but I thought that it was really good way to bring people into the strategy RPG genre because it was more than just, oh, put your units on the field like Final Fantasy Tactics. It was more like, oh, there's a story and you have to interact with these people and you're a teacher. And it's very interesting. So speaking of which, Enashi jumped in the chat saying it was a great game. Yeah, so
Yeah, as soon as you mentioned the teacher, he's there.
Yeah.
I remember the teacher as well. Now that you mention it, and this game will show up later in the list on my side
Hey.
too. But I do have my eyes on the Japanese collector's edition. At some point, I do want that. That is
Nice.
one of my girls to get.
Good choice, Soul.
Mhm.
I've played Three Houses as well, but unfortunately, I'm gonna say I picked Blue Lions.
A Blue Lions high five.
I first of all, I really did not like Dimitri.
Mm.
Was
I don't
Dimitri
think
the yellow one?
No, the blue one.
No, he's
The
the
blonde.
leader of the
Oh,
Blue,
Yeah.
the Blue Lions.
He was, I don't know, he was an edgelord. I don't like edgelords, so he was like just. I didn't enjoy him. I liked the rest of the house, but what I didn't like is that the first half of the game was in the monastery, and then the Blue Lions, when the time skip happens, they go back to the monastery, and I was so sick of the monastery.
Mhm.
So after I finished the route with the Blue Lions, and I did not pick the other ones, so I have to go back and I have to play as Claude because he is the chat.
Oh, is that the yellow guy? I think that's who I picked.
Yeah,
That's the yellow.
guy.
Yeah, that's the
He-
golden deer.
Yeah.
He's a Chad. Like in my opinion, the best leader.
Yeah, I need
Yeah.
to go back and play the
I think
golden
that's the
deer
one I
route.
picked. I was a big
'Cause
fan.
I think that honestly the Dimitri route just completely ruined the game for me because the monastery was such a slog. And I've heard the other factions, they still have the same, like, obviously they training and whatnot, but like it's a different location.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would definitely help me enjoy it
right.
more.
Yeah, definitely go back. I think
So
you'll like it more.
I've played Engage as well afterwards, which I know a lot of people hated, and they went back to Three
Yeah.
Houses. But Engage story was but the gameplay was fun.
Yeah, it was like one of those like anniversary style
Yeah.
games where it's
Yeah.
like they just want to bring all the cool stuff. It's like, hey, do you remember, like a Common
Yeah,
Writer,
oh yeah.
anniversary series
The
or
nostalgia stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But Three Houses definitely it has like one of the best stories Fire Emblem ever did.
Mhm.
So I should go back and play the other route. I'm just not touching Blue Lions again. I will probably steal some of the people from the house, but Dimitri
Yeah.
was not my favorite character, that's for sure. As a game though, it was great. It was really fun if you get past the monastery.
Anybody
Yeah.
else? So is that everybody's top 4? Kind of losing
Could be.
track. I think so. So I think
Could be.
it's... No, is it Soul?
Yeah. I was the last one.
Okay. Sorry.
So.
I'm losing track of time here. Okay, so I guess it's my turn for my number 3. Yeah? My number 3 is a remake of one of my favorite games of all time. It is the RPG that I have beaten most in my life. I absolutely love it. I know Lane does not like it, but I think that at the very end, when you got to fight the final boss, the second time after beating all of the optional final bosses that they added in Super Mario RPG Remake were really, really hard. That is my number
Lord.
3, Super Mario RPG. So at the very end, like the normal game is pretty easy. It's not that hard, but they added like 5 or 6 super bosses on the remake, and one of them took me like an hour and a half to beat because of very specific mechanics. You got to keep everything as slept, and you have to do these specific things. They added very unique, specific mechanics that if you don't follow them, your whole party gets killed immediately. I thought that was amazing. I love that they added that after the main game for people like me that just want a challenge. And they let you fight. So in the original game, you fought Culex from like one of the older Final Fantasy games, and he was all in 2D. Well, when you first meet him in that part of the game, this time he's still in the 2D sprites. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. They left the Easter egg in there. And then you get to the very end, and it's like, spoiler alert, not 2D anymore. Really, really hard fight. Really badass. I absolutely love this game. It's so wholesome. You can 100% complete the game in like 13 hours. I love Super Mario RPG. This is the definitive version of this game. I debated putting it higher, but my top 2 games on this list are just too good to not be higher. Just seeing the screen of this just makes me happy. When I was a child, I actually made a lot of stuff out of clay, and I made like a clay Bowser and a Mallow and a Geno, and I like baked them and painted them. I don't know whatever happened to that, but I was obsessed with this game. This was a huge hyperfixation of mine as a child, and as an adult playing it through this, it was just pure joy. Has anybody else played the original or the remake of this?
Oh yeah. This I think everything you said is correct. I think that original Super Mario RPG is probably the best RPG of all time.
It's so
Just
good.
Straight up, it's
It's
the
so
best
good.
RPG. But
Oh,
all that said, like and what you said, this is the definitive way to play this game. I think that it deserves better than this remake, though. Like, I don't think this remake does quite enough for me. I think that it's a little too faithful. Um, like, it doesn't go far enough. The like there are far more substantial RPG remakes coming out right now, like that Dragon
Dragon Quest
Quest
3, yeah, that looks great.
looks excellent. The Suikoden remakes, like they're doing like incredible remakes of these old games, and I don't think this one gets enough of that kind of treatment to make it like a really impressive thing to go back to. But it's a damn near perfect RPG already, so it's kind of hard to knock it for that. But
Did you do the super
I felt
bosses?
like so no, that sounds really cool. That's not necessarily, you know, like if that was on the box, like, hey, we made some super hard bosses, like that probably wouldn't move me to purchase the game going into that. Like for me, I just want I for it's been so many years since Mallow and Gino have been in anything.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that they haven't done anything since, and then they do this, and it's like, hey, this is like a good game, right? Is what it ends up being. Is like, this is good. And I you know the way that I felt about the original, like it was one of the greatest of all time. So I just feel like it needs to go further. You make you have this remake, and then you have like the total retelling afterwards. I don't know, but that's my only thing. Like I hold the original in such high regard that it's probably impossible to meet what I think it deserves.
That's fair. The super bosses at the end, though, they give you some like what the strongest weapons for each character you get from each of the bosses, and you kind of like the lazy shell is just too good on Mario, as you understand, Doctor. I will have to say the lazy shell is still better than the best weapon they give him, just because of the timings are so easy to hit. But man, this game is just the changes they made to where you could like switch out characters in combat. You can like do the AoE attacks when you hit enough. When you like hit the timed attacks, does AoE now. Like it's just so good. I love this game. Lane, I know you hate it. Right, Soul, Sky?
I don't I don't want to rain on your parade. I just don't see it. I don't understand how people look at the game and say this is one of the best RPGs ever made. I just don't understand it. Nothing against. No, I just don't get it. I know it's nostalgia, big part.
Still holds up.
But
I loved it when
I
it
don't
came
know.
out. I played the hell out of it.
I've never played it, but I've seen the whole thing. Right? I've seen like the whole game. Still don't get it.
That's okay.
Each their own.
Yeah, I played it. Actually, my kids and I, we try to pick an RPG to play as a group, so we take turns, and we played through this. So first off, I tried to play the original SNES version with them, and after about 20 minutes, they were like, "No, we're not doing this. There's a new one out. We want to play the new one." So they weren't really vibing with the original one, but they loved the remake, or the remaster, whatever it is. I didn't know there was super bosses, and I saw someone doing a speed run, I think, of the original. No, actually, a speed run of the Super Mario RPG, the Switch one. And I saw that one that you were talking about, Callie. And honestly, the way you all are talking about it makes me want to go back and play it again to get those super bosses, because we just played through it, and it was challenging for me. My kids are better than me, of course, with this timed action, where you can continue to hit them and push the right buttons. But I liked it. It didn't rank as high in my list as I thought it was going to for a Mario game, a Mario RPG game. But I really enjoyed it, and again, the writing was impeccable. Square and Nintendo together, creating this lore. I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see a part two, like you were saying, Doctor. Like maybe they could have added, what is it with Chrono Cross, and they had that like other little dialogue or kind of
Radical
story.
Dreamers.
Yeah, Radical Dreamers. They should have had something like this, Super Mario RPG, and then like a little story about the little Pinocchio guy. What's his name? I don't
Gino.
remember. Gino. Yeah, they should have like had a little story about him, because that was a very touching story with him, I think, and I really liked it. The graphics were great. It was challenging for me. I thought we were going to breeze through it, but no, it was a pretty good game in terms of the challenge. So yeah, it's a really good game. I don't know if I'll go back to the original, but I do want to try some of those super bosses for sure. Just hearing and seeing, I didn't know they were there, and if I would have known that, I probably would have had the kids try to get to them.
So there's one boss I know Lane would like. I actually had to go level Mario up to max level to beat it, because you only get to use Mario, no items, no healing. You have to get your timed perfect defenses in. And there's some skills that have like multiple hits, and you have to time all of the stuff, because if you hit 0 life, you die. And you have to hit all of your specific time things and use very specific skills at specific times. Like, it's basically a Dark Souls level turn-based RPG fight. I think those super bosses are just absolutely phenomenal at the end. And there was like no guides, because I started playing the game like right when it first came out, and no one had gotten that far to like explain what to do, and I was like, gee, this is just ridiculous. And I was really impressed. As somebody huge fan of the original, I think they did a great job. So sorry, I talked a lot about this one. Sky, we can go to
I'll
yours.
probably like it.
It was on Unity too. I think they remade this
Yeah,
one
they
on
did.
Unity. The fact they did that with Unity, you can still make some good games with that system. It's pretty cool that they were able to do that.
What's your number 3, Sky?
My number 3 is just a quick honorable mention, Grandia.
Such a
almost
good
made the
game.
list.
Such
Yeah,
a good
that
game.
was a really good game. Very like, a story about a kid kind of going through, and what was I going to say? It was a kind of a kid's tale. The battle system was very unique, kind of like Super Mario RPG, like a very unique battle system, I think, for its time. But my number 3 is going to be. Oh, it's behind me. That's why I didn't have it in front of me. It's SMT 5. It's my first SMT game, my first Shin Megami Tensei game, and it was just like super eerie, super weird, open world, all these different demons and monsters. So this was my number 5. I spent over 100 hours in it, partially getting lost at the end, but it was a super challenging, very fun, addictive game that I didn't want to put down. The music, everything, I think they did an incredible job with this. I haven't played Vengeance, but I want to go back and play that. But yeah, SMT 5 is definitely my number 3 Switch game there.
I know Nick loved this. He was doing a first playthrough on hard.
Yeah, I watched them a few times.
Yeah.
We were kind of playing, I think, together around the same time. And yeah, I have really fun memories of watching him play that game.
Anybody else like SMT5?
I've played the original on the Switch, but I finished only one road. But I picked up Vengeance on the PS5, so I'm going through the original road again, and then I'm gonna play the new story. It's just, yeah, Switch versus PS5 is like, cannot compare the performance.
You can. One of them at least gets. One of them consistently gets 30 FPS at least.
It's much much better on the PlayStation, obviously. But I did finish the Switch version. Yeah, no, it's a great game. I think it's a good starting SMT.
Hmm.
If people are like never played it and they start with 5, I think it's a good starting one.
Yeah, then they can go play Nocturne and be like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like one of
It's a
the.
good portable game too.
Or
Like
the
playing it
or,
on the portable,
Oh, yeah.
when handheld, it actually grinding. I had to do a lot of grinding in that game, and being able to just do that was really helpful playing portable.
yeah, that's the like advantage of the Switch. So it's for someone who can play outside of home. It's helpful for sure.
I played SMT5 for a while. I wasn't really in the mood for a super hard game at the time, but I might come back to it eventually.
I think Vive is not that hard because you have so many options
I mean, compared to the
available.
3 was
In general, like
ridiculous.
SMT in general, like in 5, you have so many options. You have you can like customize your character and like change their weaknesses on the fly and everything. If you struggle with the boss, you just go and you just give him a different essence. So it's much more forgiving for sure. Still hard, but like yeah, it's nowhere near 3 and 4.
It's not the Dark Souls of turn-based games.
That's 3.
That's 3. Okay.
SMT3 Nocturne, to this
Yeah.
day, is still the hardest game I've ever played.
Yeah, 3 is difficult. It also has a terrible dungeon design, but that's
Its
my
dungeon
opinion.
design is atrocious.
Yes, it is.
And
It's
the amount of,
absolutely horrible.
like, you don't have room between saves. Like, you could.
And everything looks the same, so you get lost.
You
Like
get lost so easily. Like, Nocturne is
constantly.
just super hard.
Yeah, it's for a very different reason.
Yeah.
The combat is sure, but like the game itself is just it's
It was fine
not
for a
very.
PlayStation 2 game.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's 5. I don't think 5 is as hard. Absolutely. And if you get the DLC demons, then you basically won the game because they are super busted.
All right. Doc, what's up next for you? What's your number 3?
So I'm looking at a document here, and on the number 3 line here, I've got written Pokemon with a question mark,
Okay.
because I can't pick one. I think, I said earlier that Sword was the first one that I finished since Yellow. I think that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are, I really care about the original 150 more than any of the other. And that's just a really pure way to play Pokemon battles online with the original 150, along with the mega evolutions and everything else that you could do online. Let's Go was actually really good for that. I've played Violet for like 250 hours or something crazy
Oh,
like
wow.
that now. I have 100%ed Violet, um, and I'm still checking in on it for the Terror raids just to get more of the like event Pokemon. Um, but is that the best one? I don't know. Is this the one that I'm playing the most? Certainly, you know, to my surprise, I don't know why I'm doing this still. No, but I think all of the Pokemon games that have come out on the Switch are some of the best that they've done in a long time, just in terms of approaching it and playing it and having a good time without having to, not necessarily get weird with it. That was kind of the thing, being around people that played Pokemon on like the DS. Um, they were really, really seriously into, IVs and all these other
Oh,
words.
yeah,
It's just like,
that.
I just want to catch a Bulbasaur and get into fights. and it's
Can you get
it's
to
not fun
Bulbasaur?
for me it's not fun for me to have to catch 100 or so to get the right flavor of Bulbasaur. And I think that the games on the Switch, you don't have to be a weirdo. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term, but anybody can play the Pokemon games on the Switch and have a really good time. And I think it's the best that they've done in a long time. I mean, obviously, I played way too much Violet, so yeah,
would
Pokemon.
you recommend?
With a question mark.
Would you recommend
Pokemon?
Violet? Because I haven't played it, but I heard mixed things.
Yes. I think it would be weird if I played 250 hours of a game and said I can't recommend this.
Well, I mean, people play League of Legends for like 10,000 hours, so like I don't think you should play League.
That's not a game. That's different. Anyway. So, Pokemon Unite also. No, never mind. Okay, so Pokemon Violet. I think the quality of life stuff. Just playing that game, walking around, catching Pokemon, dealing with your menu, dealing with your, leveling up, your party, fast traveling, like kind of everything. They've taken a lot of the annoying stuff from that series out, and I think it makes it a much better game to play.
Yeah, I had a fun time with Scarlet and Violet. I didn't get into. I think I got more into the video game, the VCG or whatever competition more than the card game when this came out. This one, I think I was more into the competition for the video game, which was a lot of fun. The characters were really cool. I took a lot of pictures with my whatever Quaxley evolved into, because you could take pictures and share those and things like that. I had a good time playing it. I played on a server with a bunch of other people, so that helped to have that community feel. I didn't get as much into the competitive side. I still don't, like you said, Doctor, I don't know anything about the IVs or how that works, but it was still a lot of fun, and I think it's a good game. I like how they had the different, like the different kind of, I don't want to spoil anything, but you had the two different routes, and you kind of had two different perspectives of that. So it was good. I like both of them. I didn't grab me as much as Sword and Shield though, because I even played the DLCs for those two. But I think they're still really good.
You said that, and it had been so many hours ago that I completely forgot how you level up to the end game. But yes, that the main quest and the other quest, I thought was really cool. I had a great time, going back and forth, almost in like a almost like Zelda, where you had this big open world to kind of just explore, which was new to that series to me. And I thought, yeah. Now I feel more confident in saying yes. I recommend Pokemon Violet, and that's probably number 3.
All right.
For me, it's the
I'm going to
opposite.
take the question mark off of my list here.
I've played Scarlet, and playing Scarlet made me not want to buy more Pokemon games.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm not buying the next Pokemon game. Scarlet was.
Well, that's because you didn't play Violet. You heard that Violet was the
Same
best.
game. It's the same game. I honestly did not like the new ones at all. So.
Well,
I mean, they sold so many copies that it's just not gonna affect it in any way. But yeah, I'm out of Pokemon.
Well, you have to consider this. Like, it's gonna make it very, very simple. If Lane hates it, it means I'm probably gonna love it.
Yeah, and it is open world, so you can go and fight whichever boss you want to, which I think may have been different. Also, you didn't have to follow the normal route. It wasn't guided for you, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but there is no scaling, so you are either too weak or too strong. You either cannot kill them, or you come back later and you absolutely demolish them. There is
true, which I kind of like, because I could get a little break after beating the harder bosses. I could go back and kind of wipe some of the weaker ones. And it was a little bit, a little bit of a break for me.
For me, that kind of destroyed the balance. But like, it's weird because I didn't hate the game. I still finished the main story, so I cannot say I hate it. But like when I finished it, I sat down. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying the next one. This was just not a experience that I would like from Pokemon.
Yeah, and it was a little glitchy. I had a few times where I got stuck in different spots and had to. I was
A
trying to
little,
figure out.
a little glitchy. Have you
Yeah,
seen the
honestly,
compilations?
it didn't. The graphics didn't bother me. I thought it ran fine, but there were a few times where I had some glitches.
I mean, Kali
but it
knows
wasn't.
I'm not like an FPS
Yeah,
person. Pokemon Scarlet was a slideshow,
Oh no.
and
Well,
that's coming from me, Kali.
That
oh
yeah,
no.
that was definitely there were some tech issues early on, and I don't know that all of them necessarily got resolved. But
It was
I am, very sensitive to that kind of stuff. Like that's typically why I'm playing everything on PC. I don't, you know, I don't
that's the
want my
thing.
games to run poorly
That's the thing. I'm
usually, but
not.
that didn't really get in my way of
I'm
having a
not
really
that
good time with
sensitive.
this.
yeah,
I
same.
really,
I
and
am.
it was yeah, Kali. I'm not that sensitive. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet run awful,
Like,
and like the graphics, sure. People say the graphics don't matter, but like the game looks worse. I know it's people say that all the time. This game looks worse than PlayStation 1 games. It does. It looks absolutely atrocious. In some places,
but I
like
mean, there's
Sword,
rounded edges. I mean, at least we have like
Sword,
round characters. We have
Pokemon
polygons.
Sword, Pokemon Sword looks better than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. It looked fine to me. I didn't see any issues with
Really,
it.
the textures and everything is just like it's all flat. They're just popping like
I mean, we're
3
talking
meters
about a
in front
huge
of
open
you.
world with like thousands of Pokemon running around.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
And it's
but there are
Xenoblade.
like,
games, yeah, like
yeah,
Xenoblade or like even Breath of the Wild or whatever. Like
yeah.
that's not really an excuse. Like the game runs terribly. I said like it's Pokemon. It has the same core of gameplay, so that's still appealing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I was very
I didn't
bored.
like the starter Pokemon. I can tell you that. I wasn't really a big fan of the starter Pokemon, but um, I loved like a lot of the other ones. So it was a
Even though
good.
like they have like you don't do just like the badges, whatever. You have other gameplay styles, like the attacking the base.
Oh yeah,
What,
yeah.
what was that? Everyone was standing in place.
Mhm.
Nobody was moving until you got like 3 meters in front of them. Then they decided that they loaded in. So you threw a one Pokemon and just wiped them out in 5 seconds. And then you were running through empty field unless someone else noticed that you're close to them. Like it was pathetic the way they programmed these mini games or whatever. I don't know. I think the game like they are going down in quality with every single Pokemon game.
Except
I
Arceus.
don't
Arceus was
I don't know
revolutionary.
that it's necessarily going down in quality. I
I think it
think
is.
that it's well, I think what it actually is a studio that is going through an awkward period that a lot of game
I think
developers went through a very long time ago. But
I think Game Freak
these
cannot
so
make
Pokemon
3D
games, they
games.
had, you know, they were on handhelds, like they were 3DS games. They were pretty small scale, and
Yeah,
now all of a sudden they're making,
that's the
console
problem though.
games.
I
And I
don't think
think
Game Freak is ready for that. They are
yeah,
not ready to
yeah,
make
and
those kind of games.
totally. Like I think it's, they're going
They
through this
should
awkward and I think everything you're saying is like totally correct. Like I think that
they should
it's straight up
go.
unacceptable the way that the game runs in
Well,
some spots,
it's
especially when it
sold
first
so
came out.
much because it's Pokemon. But if they went back and worked on what they're good at instead of trying to push this 3D open world that they clearly not good enough
I don't
for,
I think I think,
or hire
they're
more
not gonna
people.
scale down what the games are, going forward. I think they're only going to, get bigger and better. I mean, hopefully better. But I think this is probably if you were to line it up with what other people, what other developers, this is like the awkward, like this is the first time we've ever made a 3D game. This is,
Yeah, but
you know, there's some weirdness here,
imagine
in
if
terms of
any
like
studio released a game in this state.
oh, I mean, it happens all the time.
Well, yeah,
It's,
and are they that and sell like millions and millions of copies
Right.
because it's a Pokemon brand. Like it's selling because it's Pokemon brand, right? But like if a game came out like this, they get clowned on immediately. Which Pokemon
Yeah.
did as well. There were compilations of how messy and glitchy the game is and how it runs terribly, but people still bought them anyway because it's Pokemon. They will always
You know,
sell.
and it
And
was
Yeah.
still even
because they
enough
will
Yeah.
Probably
always
buy the
sell.
next one as well.
It's the
Yeah,
biggest
Because
like
they will
Nintendo
always
franchise
got
in the
sell.
out there.
world.
Yeah, but because
You
they
know,
will
they
always sell, they don't need to improve. Even if
yeah.
they
Well,
release another game that will be
I don't think it's they don't. I don't think
same.
they don't think they need to improve. They just pushed it out. Yeah, they
I
pushed it
think
out with what they had, and that's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
Nintendo knew that it wasn't a good look. Like they had a statement saying like, "Hey, we know. We're
yeah,
gonna
we know,
we're
but
gonna work on this and get to a place where it's gonna be good," because they knew, you know, they can't just get away with something like that.
well,
They
they
have to
did.
do better, and I think they made good, you know, with the improvements to this game. And I would imagine that the next one in the series doesn't have quite the same issue. Um,
I would hope
technically, I
so.
would hope. But you know, all that said, like you're totally right. Like a lot of the tech issues were unacceptable. But at the end of the day, I still had a fantastic time. Because I don't
That's the
think
thing, because it's still
that
Pokemon.
yeah, like it's still I think it's like the best Pokemon has been in a long time. Just from playing it, approaching it, all of that.
I've barely finished the main. I forced myself to. I was
Mhm.
getting on the what's the final area called? I don't remember. I was like approaching the final area, gathering the allies, and I was forcing myself to finish it. I did not have a good time towards the end, and I mean it's fine when people hate that. Like again, like I know that a lot of people really enjoy the game, but yeah, for me it killed the franchise for me.
Wow.
Especially since they keep releasing the
It's a very
double
decisive game, but it is still. But it's good to
Yeah.
talk through that. But it's glad to see it on the list here.
Yeah, I kind of want to play it because Lane hates it so much. Like just because of that alone.
I don't hate it. I was just very
Like
disappointed.
I want to go to rush to the store right now and be like, give me all of your copies of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, just because
Compared
my
to Sword and Shield, the story, I like the story a lot better than Sword and Shield. That's for
I
sure.
know you will start it, Gale, and as soon as you like see the frame rate and pop-ins in the tutorial area, you're gonna turn it off.
yeah, I'd say you're probably 90% correct. Maybe
Yeah.
100%. I've been streaming my Switch. I brought all my stuff down from my computer, so I have it hooked through my monitor, and I don't have my smoothing tech that my OLED TV does. And I'm like, this looks, it's not smooth. I can't make this look like it's 100 frames per second. I hate it. And the Switch games are
Callie,
just,
wait for the
I, I,
Switch 2 and try it then. Maybe
yeah.
it'll run better on that.
I
and
hope.
you know, Gale, you know that I am not like
I
overly
am.
sensitive
I am a
to
frame per
frame
second
rate.
snob. I'll admit that. Okay. Well, this is a great discussion. I actually put this on my list of games I want to play, thanks to Matt's glowing review. I actually will consider buying it when I see it on sale at some point. So thanks, Matt, for giving such a glowing review, and thanks, Lane, for hating it because it makes me want to try it more. So,
I mean, of course.
Brunt, what's your number 3?
So my number 3, we touched on this earlier. Fire Emblem Three Houses. I borrowed it from a friend a couple years ago, and since then I've really enjoyed it. And it's really the combat mechanics, how it's just a lot of strategy. Because it's a lot different from a lot of the other games that I've played. And a lot of the characters are really cool as well.
Yep, I think a lot of people like Fire Emblem Three Houses. We should have said something earlier, like, no, I want to keep it secret that this is also on my list.
I will say if I go back to it, every single house needs Lysithea. I'm gonna steal her in every single playthrough.
Which character?
Lysithea.
Oh, okay.
She's my favorite character in the whole game.
I'll have some more to say on this game too. A little. later on, but the music. One thing is the music. Like to me, is still the most like enthralling. The way they just rearranged it, and every time I heard it, uh, like I can. That's one of the reasons I want that collector's edition is for the CD soundtrack. It's just gets me every time.
Nice. Well, anybody else want to talk more about this one? We talked a lot about it earlier.
I just want to add that I forgot what the box art looked like for this game, and I love it. I think it's so goofy. I think it's like the artist did the art and then was told later, wait, there's a third house. And you're like, are you kidding me? I'm not drawing these other two. We're just going to put him up here upside down in the air.
Upside down.
That's where he fits. I love it.
I was
It's
just
great.
thinking about that.
Put the best character on top.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find the image. Oh yeah, see. Oh yeah, that is that is pretty great. Let me bring this up over here on the screen.
It is an image of all time.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but it's got just Claude on top. Yeah.
They just stuck him in. Just like just wedge him in there.
Nice. All right. Cool. Lane, what's your number 3 title?
Number 3. It was mentioned before already. But for me, it's Bravely Default 2, which had much better pacing than the first one. The first one was weirdly backtracking for half game, so they definitely improved it in the second one, and it's just it's a classic old school turn-based JRPG with a job system that had quite a lot of jobs to choose from, and pretty good customization that you can mix and match and like create unique combinations with the jobs. I really like the cast. I think the cast of the Bravely Default 2 is great. Better than the first one, in my opinion. It's a classic JRPG with overworld and the typical crystal story and whatnot. Like the story was not. The story in the first game was more unique. The second game was more standard, but it was still good. And I think it has one of the best card mini games that I've played in a while. I don't know if you guys played the Final Fantasy Rebirth, which has the card mini game.
No.
The one in Bravely Default 2 works similar, but it's much better.
I actually really dislike the card game in Rebirth. I think it's one
It
of
works.
the worst card games in RPG I've played.
It works similar in a way where you have like the certain shapes that you have to put on the field, right? And that's the only similarity. It's much better in Bravely Default 2. I was addicted to that minigame. I played it for so many hours. It was so good.
The world is balanced because Lane hates something. Lane likes something Callie doesn't, so we're in balance once again.
I haven't played Final Fantasy Rebirth yet. I didn't get to it yet. I just seen the mini game.
Rebirth's card game, it's so off. Like it has so much potential, and I spent like 2 hours trying to beat this one enemy, and it's
yeah. I didn't get to it yet, but I just seen like the shapes on the cards, whatever. So I thought it's similar. It might not be, but the card minigame in Bravely Default 2 is amazing.
Did you play Horizon Forbidden West at all and saw like the mini game they had in there with the different figurines? Yes. It's basically like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's different then.
It's very different. Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. I hate it.
Yeah, the Bravely Default one is different then, but I loved it. I remember I played it so much. It was amazing. It was so much fun.
All right.
Do you have to play Bravely Default 1 to play Bravely Default 2? Are there separate stories?
I think they're separate stories.
They are, yeah. There's a Bravely Default 1, which was followed by Bravely Second, which is like kind of a sequel. And then they released Bravely Default 2, which is a standalone game. Okay. It's weird. But yeah, the Bravely Default 2 story is like standalone from the first one. It, I don't know if it's in the same universe or whatever kind of thing, but like the story and the characters are completely different.
All right. Soul, what is your number 3?
All right, so my number 3 is from one of the franchises I absolutely love, one of my favorite franchises from Nintendo. That would be the Metroid franchise. Metroid and like Star Fox, huge fans of those franchises. So anytime I see a mainland title, you know, uh, for a console, odds are it's going to be one of my favorites. And it's definitely no different for Metroid, and it's definitely no different for Star Fox. If they had one for this console generation, but that's for another time. Metroid Dread is my number 3, and like you were saying earlier, it had been was it about 19 years since I believe the what was it? It was either Fusion or Zero Mission came out on the Game Boy Advance that we had another mainline 2D entry in the franchise. It's a long wait, you know. And when the developers behind the remake for Metroid 2, Samus Returns, when they got a chance to do a full-on like original entry using their team, their creative team, on a console, not locked down by the limitations of the hardware or the limitations of the design of a Game Boy game, they really knocked this out of the park. They really showed how it's done, creating one of the best versions of the Metroid franchise like ever conceived on console. Like this game, like the stuff they do in this game is just absolutely insane. And the fact that they were able to get a little bit of like a horror game implemented with the was it the Emmy areas, absolutely terrifying. You know, the movement feels incredible. The combat is nice and fluid. The the sprawling areas are just, of the different zones are big, although maybe a little too big in certain respects. I kind of get lost sometimes. Um, but for all the nitpicks I have of this game, the fact that we actually got an actual mainland title for a franchise with the exception of like the Prime games that came out, and then the drought of even those, like you're saying earlier, it almost felt like Nintendo was kind of done with Metroid. They didn't know where to go with it, and well, this team showed us how to bring a new Metroid game into the 21st century, and it's incredible.
Well,
I think it's also incredible how like Nintendo let them do this to an extent,
Yeah,
because that game gets real obtuse in some areas that just feel like good old classic original Metroid, and I absolutely love it for that. Where you kind of just have to shoot through walls. You get lost, you don't know
hello
where to go,
everyone.
and you just have to go crazy and try absolutely everything until one of the walls just busts apart, and you have no idea why it busts apart. That's just where you need to go now, and
yeah,
it's great. I
yeah.
love it.
It did go a bit old school there, which can be a little frustrating, but at the same time,
It's exactly like original Metroid, where you go down a corridor and you think you're going down the right corridor because it's right next to the one you need to be going down, and you go and you shoot a Kraid at the end of it, but that wasn't Kraid. It was just another Kraid. You have to go back, go do the right corridor, and then you fight Kraid again. It's excellent.
Well, I'll have to keep this
it's so
game
good.
in mind. I don't
Oh, it's
like
so good.
I don't like horror games at all, so I don't know if I can deal with the horror part, but we'll see.
Well, it's not really, it's not horror the way you think. It's like tension. Most of the game you're doing your jumping and shooting and going and exploring. But there's certain sections where you're dealing with an enemy that is essentially unkillable, and it only needs to one hit you to take you out.
That
That's where
sounds
the tension
awful.
comes from. So you need to run through these areas really, really fast, in like a chase, a deadly chase,
Oh,
in
I
order to get
hate
to these
those.
areas.
Oh, nope. I'm out.
Eventually you'll take care of them. You'll deactivate them, and you'll get like better cool stuff. But yeah, it's definitely like it, I don't know if you've ever played Metroid Fusion,
Yeah,
but
I didn't
Okay,
like the
cool.
speedrunning sec. I don't like speedrunning games at all, so.
Oh, I don't speedrun games. I enjoy them at my own pace, But yeah, that I know. Like I love Metroid Fusion because it had it a little more narrative, and it had a version of Adam that I didn't hate, you know, um, or Samus's narrative, which I didn't hate. Um, yeah, other M will never make it into any of my top anything.
That's fair.
But yeah, that game gets a little bit of flack for being a little too hand-holdy as far as like, uh, you know, very linear, right? Compared to most other Metroid games where there is a sequence you go through, but the game has it to where you can break the sequence. Like it's kind of built in. You can sequence break and do whatever you want if you have enough knowledge about the game. And so that was always something that kind of held Fusion back a bit. But what Fusion did in it was introduce the SAX, the Samus Parasite version, where it was basically it turned sections of the game into like a really scary, like tension-filled game of like hide and seek, and then like running and escaping from essentially yourself, a fully powered version of yourself that is attempting to destroy you for reasons I won't get into, because of spoiler review. But they basically took the sequences that worked in that game and made it a big portion of the various areas and the overworld. And man, is it nail biting! Like it's super wild, but it's super exhilarating when you can finally take them out and have it not being an issue anymore. But
Well,
yeah,
I put it on my list. So far I have Metroid Dread, Pokemon Violet, Scarlet, Astral Chain, and Lover Pretend as my potential games to play out of this call. So
heck yeah.
on to number 2. My number 2, I actually did a video about this game. I'm just gonna pull it up over here on screen. Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I love Kirby. Kirby is one of my favorite Nintendo properties. This is the best Kirby game ever made, in my opinion. I think it's incredible. I've beaten most of the Kirby games that exist, or I have played almost all of them, and I have beaten a good chunk of them. I really like Kirby. I'm like halfway through Return to Dreamland Deluxe Edition thing that they remade recently. Um, I love Kirby. This if you like platformers and if you just it's the first time Kirby was like fully 3D, just 3D action platformer Kirby. I love this game. I beat the super final boss, like the secret boss, because every Kirby is like, oh, we're gonna go fight the thing, but really at the end it's like, oh, you're fighting this dimension ending like warlord, or this like demigod from another universe. And like Kirby looks like this cute wholesome thing, but he's actually a reincarnated god of the void. This cute little, there's a lot of lore behind Kirby. It's really interesting. I love Kirby. This game is so wholesome. It's fantastic. I highly, highly, highly recommend this game. It is amazing, and if you want to have fun, like you're just gonna have fun. it's just wonderful. And like he eats cars and stuff and turns into like mouthful mode. Where's that part of the video? Yeah, like he turns into like cars and refrigerators. And like it's just a super amazingly fun game. So I highly recommend Kirby and the Forgotten Land. If you all played it, anybody played this?
Yeah, this game's great. It was very good as a co-op game. 2 players. You had player 2 as a Waddle Dee with like a do-rag.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really good platformer. One of the best on this platformer on this platform. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. Like it's a really good game.
I played it as well. It's co-op most of the time. Also helping out my daughter who was playing it, and that I don't know if it was the secret boss you're talking about, Callie, but I did fight one of the last bosses, I think, and it was pretty challenging. I had a hard time helping her or playing that, trying to get through that boss. Waddle Dee for the win. That's a great character there, and it was just fun. The collectibles were awesome. The platforming was great. We play all the Kirby games as well, and the lore behind it. And like you said, Callie, like it's not as it seems like just cuteness, but there's a lot of kind of crazy sci-fi-ish stuff as well involved, which makes it even cooler. But yeah, it was a really fun game.
Yeah, like the last costume that you get is Morpho Knight, and like you're like firing like giant waves of fire across the screen, and like the final boss, the super secret final boss, you have to have like most of the like stars in the game. And once you beat the last boss, you get so many stars, you get to go fight the super secret hard boss. And they're basically like this demigod angel thing, and it's really cool. I love this game. Lane probably wouldn't like it. Rant, Soul, have you two played it?
I have never played a Kirby game in my life. Not a single one.
Not even Dream Course?
No, it doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. It's completely out of my ballpark. I cannot say if they're good or not. I just I looked at them like, I'm not gonna play that. It's just absolutely not my thing. So I like platformers, but like there's something about Kirby that I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Rant, Soul, have you played
Yeah,
this?
I've never. I'd like to play it. It looks great. Yeah, no, I've just been busy with other stuff. I'll have to make sure to pick it up someday because it does look really good. For me, the peak Kirby experience I ever had was Revenge of Meta Knight. That will always be like peak for me. But this game looks really good. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah, it's quite good. The Return to Dreamland Deluxe that they recently came out with on the Switch is also good.
Yeah, I played a little bit of that one. That one's good too.
Just Kirby, man. Kirby's so good. All right.
That's sad, the first party Nintendo characters just not for me.
Sky, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is, I'm gonna go with honorable mention first because I do kind of have one. It's just real quick. Tales of Vesperia, because not necessarily that it ran the best on the Switch, but I played that one co-op with 3 of my kids, and I think it took us about a year and a half or almost 2 years to get through that. So that's an honorable mention. But my actually number 1 or my number 2 game is Ninja Gaiden, the NES version, because I played that on the Nintendo Switch Online, and I actually owned that game when this NES came out. When it first came out, I had one. I got it as a Christmas gift, and eventually got Ninja Gaiden, and I love that game, but it was so hard to try to get through, and I could only beat it, a few years ago with Nintendo Switch Online when I could use the save states. So I ended up getting a copy, original in-box copy of Ninja Gaiden for NES.
In-box. I have it
in-box.
outside of a box, but...
Yeah. I have the second one. I'm trying to get the third, but that one's really really pricey. But I love all the Ninja Gaiden. It's just the lore, the cutscenes, the little kind of snippets of Ryu, Ryu, like, and kind of just what's going on with the whole story. Even though it was kind of cheesy, I guess I like that. It kind of definitely reminded me of the '80s vibe there. The music, honestly, is phenomenal. I think some of the um, best like Nintendo music, and I have like the soundtrack for Ninja Gaiden 2. I love that. But yeah, that's my number two, Ninja Gaiden NES version. I've never played any of the new Team Ninja ones, I think, but I love the first three Ninja Gaidens on the NES.
Yeah, the NES games were
And
amazing. I played 1 and 2 when I was a child, and they were really really hard.
hmm yeah, I have all three of them on this on the Wii U. So I finished the first two. I need to go and finish the third one, and I'll have completed all three of them. And that was kind of one of my goals to beat all those. But yeah, that's my number two. I'm so thankful for the Nintendo Switch Online for that game and Link to the Past. Otherwise, I would never have been able to beat those games.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, and I played on an arcade stick too, so it was a little bit
Oh,
harder.
cool.
Yeah, and my kids
Got,
would help me with some of the areas, but yeah, playing it on arcade stick was a lot of fun.
got the full experience there. That's pretty cool.
hmm
I'll need to go back and actually play those. I played a little bit of them. I didn't really dedicate a whole lot of time. I myself I had the experience with Ninja Gaiden the like the remakes, the 3D versions got released on like the original Xbox. Those are really good, except for 3. Don't play 3. 3 is really bad.
I never
Yes,
played the old ones.
these are
I,
all
but
time greats. Excellent video games. Excellent music too.
I played the newer ones. I never played the NES ones. I don't think I'm ever gonna play them. But I played the Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1 and 2. And yeah, 3 is 3 is not good. But the Sigma 1 and 2, yeah, especially Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 was amazing. I think I like finished it in a day and then just immediately went and played New Game Plus basically. But yeah, I cannot say about the old ones because I think
Yeah.
those are way too old for me to play. Not
Well,
that
I
I'm
mean,
old, I don't think I could go back to an NES game today
I
and
I
enjoy it.
love I love the fact where you're like, if you go back, the enemies just respawn like in the same spot, and you like, it's just so challenging, so hard.
Well,
oh yeah.
I think that they spawn like it can literally spawn on top of you because it was a game this designed to get money out of you. So
Yeah,
it was not like fair.
yeah,
It was made to be basically kind of bullshit.
It was probably NES limitations too.
Yeah, but
You know.
in general, like these old games were that was basically how they get their like runtime because they were so difficult in the NES games like being played, and yeah, the people are losing their mind. It's just
yeah. I
like
don't.
some
Yeah.
screens are like insane hard to get through.
I heard someone did a YouTube video on what if Ryu from Ninja Gaiden NES got into Super Smash, and I was like, that would have been my dream. I think if I would have
Oh.
probably really got into Smash Brothers if Ryu would have got into Smash. But it was really cool
Yeah.
talking about how they would design him and what moves he would have had, what would have been his music, um, for the
It's
game.
it's weird is not because I mean he is in Dead or Alive, which apparently is the
Mhm.
same
Yeah.
Ryu.
We'll always have him dead or alive.
Yeah, there's no other way to play this game really, currently except for Nintendo. So they should have some stake in we'll see.
I don't know who owns like Ryu Hayabusa as a character. So, but then again, there are characters that that you would never expect in in Smash, like Thief or I don't know Banjo Kazooie or whatever. So it's probably doable to get him there. It's kind of
Interesting.
weird he's not, to be honest. You would expect him there, to be honest.
Yeah.
To me, he's an iconic character, so I would have thought.
So apparently I didn't hide the channel correctly enough. I fixed that. I was like, I don't know who this is. They're not part of the show. I thought I set it all up right. Anyway, fixed
Mhm.
that. Supposed to be hidden to everybody. Anyway, cool. I was not expecting Ninja Gaiden today, but that's awesome. All right, Doctor, what's your next one? Number 2.
All right. The Legend of Zelda. Have you heard of this game?
Never. I've never heard of The Legend of Zelda before. Tell me about it. What is
it the
it?
one? Is it the one that
There's-
invented Kras?
Oh yeah,
Well,
that's it.
Yeah.
I've got 2 of them at
Oh
number
yeah.
2 because I couldn't pick one. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I absolutely love these games. Zelda was done before Breath of the Wild came out to me. Like, I think about it a lot of times. I think the worst game I've ever played in my life, and I'm not exaggerating at all, but the absolute worst game I've ever played is Skyward Sword.
It's so
I
bad.
think it is top to bottom.
Oh my god,
like
it's trash.
so disappointing. It's offensive to play. I think the art is stupid. I think like it's a horrible video game. And Breath of the Wild not only made Zelda interesting again for me, but it made open world games interesting. It's I started that game up for a little bit, and I quickly realized that it was something bigger than I expected, and I was going to have to take some time off of work. And I ended up, the Switch just came out, so I put in some PTO and I went up to the mountains to play some Zelda in isolation. And it worked out pretty good because I also got snowed in at the hotel. So I'm just, exploring Zelda for the first couple of days after it came out. And it was just such a incredible experience that open world games just don't do. And the Zelda games had kind of lost their way. And just, the ability to just kind of explore and try to figure it out and think about how, the solution to the puzzle is going to work. And having this open, like all these systems working together with the physics and the different abilities that you have, where you can kind of approach a problem multiple different ways, and you can get there in a way that they definitely didn't intend, but it absolutely worked. You can ride a boulder across the map, like you can just do that, and that's excellent. And then they made a sequel, you know and they leaned more into that, which is absolutely the right move for me. They added the construction, like the banjo nuts and bolts stuff, to start putting together, different vehicles. And uh, I spent days just putting together different air skiffs that would get me to those board cubes up in the sky in different ways. I'm like, okay, now I've got this other rocket. Now I can shoot up this way, and I can get there, this other way before the whole thing just falls down because I ran out of time. And that was like, all over again. Like the sequel lives up in a way that I didn't think it could. But yeah, this game's special for sure. It is the best Zelda game. Both of them, they are one game to me, and I think both of them, best Zelda game, one of the best of all time. Just video games, like not even qualifying it as Zelda or open world or anything else. Like this is just one of the best of all time.
You know, if it wasn't for this game, we wouldn't have grass in games, and we wouldn't have Genshin High Impact Censored Violence. So,
True.
I liked Zelda Breath of the Wild somewhat. I put like 60 hours into it, but to me, there's never going to be a Zelda better than Ocarina of Time Master Quest on the GameCube. That was just perfect Zelda for me. But I think what they did with Tears of the Kingdom, like really leaning into the building stuff, was really cool. But as somebody that doesn't like that part, it was kind of a turnoff for me. So I'm glad you liked it, and I think that it's exciting that this has really made more people exposed to Zelda, because I think Zelda's a great series. It's been around since I was a child. Like, I remember when my cousin Andy had the first Zelda game, and like it saved. It had saves, and back in the late '80s, that was just the coolest thing ever. It's like, wow, we don't have to beat it all in one sitting. We can come back later, and it was just phenomenal. And I think it was Hope that said something like this probably about a year and a half or so ago, or maybe around when Breath of the Wild was coming out. That no, it wasn't when it was coming out. He said that Breath of the Wild is basically what the original Zelda tried to do on the NES, but they didn't have the console power to do it. And I think that's a really interesting concept, because in original Zelda, you could just go wherever the hell you wanted. Now, if you wander into some places you're not supposed to be, you're going to die. But the same way in this game, you could just go wherever you want. So I think it's great what Nintendo did with this property. Do I want them to continue this path? Absolutely not. I want them to go back to the give me my 8 dungeons. I want my linear progression. But I'm old, so great choice, Matt.
Even
Yeah.
I've played Breath of the Wild. I finished Breath of the Wild. I bought it with Switch when it came out because there was nothing else. And I had to take like 5 breaks during playing it because I was bored. So I don't know. The world felt kind of empty. The weapon durability was awful.
I really like Breath of the Wild. I'm not exactly like super huge fan of everything they did, but I think what they did for the franchise was pretty incredible. Because like, yeah, like what you said, after Skyward Sword, it was like this franchise is in trouble. Like, what are we doing? You know, where's the creativity? Like, this is bad. And then they come out with this, you know, this huge open world Legend of Zelda game, which, like also you said, Kelly, um, it was almost like a spiritual successor of what they were doing with the original NES game. Because the original NES game, you could go anywhere, as long as there wasn't like something physically holding you, like a locked door or something like that, and you need a special item to get across. Like, you can go anywhere you want, which is both a blessing and a curse, because it's like, okay, you can go anywhere you want. Where should I be going? I don't know. The game doesn't tell you. At least Breath of the Wild tells you a little bit more, but it's still kind of like, okay, there you go. And it's like, but it's so big. Where do I go? But just the freedom, that where you can go anywhere. Um, just exploration is so cool. The combat's great. Not a big fan of the weapon destruction.
Yeah, sucked.
Like, I'm okay if weapons degrade and they break, but I at least like have like a fallback, like a wooden sword that's not great, but it won't break on you, or at least you can at least repair it, so that way you have something if all of your other weapons fail. That's the only thing that kind of bugged me about that game, but everything else, well, the visuals are great, just the audio. Um, there's so much creative stuff involved with that game. I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom. I'll have to play it eventually. I've heard great stuff about that game. I've heard some gripes, right? The as far as like the creating, contraptions and vehicles and stuff like that, like a Banjo Kazooie nuts and bolts. I've heard fair share of criticisms of that. For me, Tears of the Kingdom is what I wanted Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts to be. I wanted that kind of creativity kind of injected into a Zelda gameplay style format instead of what Nuts and Bolts did. The Tears of the Kingdom did it right, you know, and yeah, eventually I'll get around to checking out. But yeah, banger after banger game, uh, and where Zelda goes from here, we'll just have to wait and see. But this was a pretty amazing experiment that I think did more right than wrong.
Say that there's weapon durability and then there's Zelda weapon durability.
Yeah, they did a lot
There's
of
weapon
improvements to it in Tears of the Kingdom, though.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know. I finished Breath of the Wild, but it's not a bad game, but I think it's extremely overrated.
I mean, we didn't have grass until Breath of the Wild, Lane. Come on.
No, well, yeah, but it's like people say combat is good. There's 3 weapon types with 1 combo: charge, attack, and a bow, and that's it.
I would like to talk to the blacksmith
thought-
that made those swords, though. It's like, guy, you need to learn to smith better.
The combat is extremely basic in those games. Yes, people you just use the physics. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna search for 20 boulders to kill some goblins every time I fight. Because fighting, you were avoiding fighting because your weapons broke immediately. So and every time you have to fight, I was basically using bombs just to get enemies out of my way because you don't get anything for fighting enemies. It's pointless. Even the materials you get, you upgrade your armor to get like 3 extra defense. Like it was absolutely, the exploration didn't give you anything useful. Every shrine you finished, you get a worse weapon than the 3 that you broke to finish it. I know people enjoy the exploration, but like I've played open world games before. I don't think it was that unique. So, and like except for 20,000 million Korok seeds, there was not that much in the world. Like it was fine, but I don't think it's like 10 out of 10, not even close.
Yeah, I like Tears of the Kingdom. I never played Breath of the Wild, but I put about 60, between 40 to 70 hours in Tears of the Kingdom, and I have only went to like the first part of the story. I was just trying to figure out what the hell I was doing and running around and flying around and building stuff and going all over the place and trying to figure out puzzles. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that 60, 70 hours, and eventually I'll go back and get to the story, which may be the game I play the most in terms of hours ever, if that's the case. But it was just I like the lore, I think, more, even though I'm not really into Zelda. I like the characters Zelda and Link, and it was just cool to be running around and play as them, since the only game I played before that was Link to the Past. Putting 60 to 70 hours, having a good time running around, thinking I was getting somewhere and then realizing that I hadn't got to the story. But it was fun. I like the music. I like the sound effects. I like the graphics. Really, really beautiful game.
See, people say story and music, but like there was barely anything. The story in Breath of the Wild happened 100 years ago. The story in Breath of the Wild was 20 memories that you watched.
Yeah, the story
Well,
was really weak.
The story is
There
what
was
whatever
no
I make
story.
of it in my head, so I don't need a story necessarily. It
Well, that's
needs to
not
tell me the
story
story.
though. That's not a
What
story
is?
though.
I mean, it's a story. It's when I said the lore, I didn't think I said story. Maybe I did, but I like the lore and just kind of thinking of what's going on in this world. And to me, it was all about imagination and
Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
the biggest strength of the game. Like the basically like it's a big sandbox that you do whatever you want. But like all the other stuff that people say that it has like story and even music was very, very scarce in the game.
It was more like I said, sound effects, like just the ambiance and things like that.
Situational ambiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the weapons breaking. Honestly, I like the fact that it was a almost survival-ish type of game, and that didn't bother me. I mean, if you got stuck, then maybe you had to go back or go back to a different save or something.
No,
Oh.
what I had to do is go back and farm a specific Lionel so he drops weapons because they were the only
Yeah,
ones that were
that's what
used.
I did.
And that's what most people did because everything else was trash, and you had to go and kill this one enemy that was dropping weapons that were useful for a while. I don't know. It's not a bad game. I'm not saying they are bad games. I'm just saying that they are like very overrated.
Well,
Well, it's Zelda. You know, that's again. It's
I
just
mean, it's not Ocarina of Time. That's
I
my.
never played that.
I loved it. It's so
Any
good.
o- any other Zelda
game.
game I tried was I tried Wind Waker and I dropped it immediately. And then I tried another one that I don't even remember which one. I'm not in Zelda never grabbed me, to
Well,
be
new
honest.
Zelda's coming out soon. The when we get to actually play as Zelda, I'm very excited for that. So
Yeah, I'm just
Same.
I think I bought Breath of the Wild because it was coming out with the Switch.
yeah, a lot of people did.
But yeah, like I finished the game and like after every Divine Beast I took a break because I was just bored. And then I came back and finished another section and then I took a break.
All right. And respecting everybody's time a little bit, Runt, let's move forward to your number 2 game. That was a really good discussion. It's a revolutionary game.
I'm
For
always
the
going
Switch.
against the game.
I know,
This.
I know. Runt, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is it's a 2-part series game, Fate Extella and Fate Extella Link. Fate Extella has some really great story plot developments, and then the second one, Extella Link, has some really good gameplay in it. For me, it's a lot of the kind of using of historical characters, and also uh, kind of just how I got into the series.
Did we lose you?
No, I'm just thinking of words.
Oh,
Um,
Mhm.
but it just a lot of the characters are unique in their own way, and the stories kind of clash together a little bit in the storytelling.
Is it connected to the anime in any way?
I think Extella is in another, like it's in its own set universe.
Okay.
But I think a lot of the same characters are used in
Yeah,
in the Fate Extra anime. Yeah,
yeah, there's like Saber and all that. And, like,
yeah.
never played the games, but I've never seen the anime, but I know quite a lot about it because it's very popular.
Yeah.
I have the one that's on screen right now, Fate Extella the Emerald Star for PS4. I haven't opened it. I bought it at a game shop in Arizona like 8 years ago. Yep, sure did. The box looks cool. I got a good deal on it, but I just haven't played it. It looks cool though. There's a Fate collab coming at Honkai Star Rail next year, so maybe I should play it so I should know more about the characters.
That is correct. Also, speaking of Fate, there's the Stay Night remaster that just recently came out. That's also on Switch. That would be my number 1, but I have not had the chance to buy it yet.
Heard a lot of good things about this series. Where would you say is a good place to start?
I would say that Stay Night is probably one of the best places to start. Um, if not Stay Night, talking like games, I mean, there's not a lot, but most of them are pretty good. The Tsukihime, so Tsukihime and Witch on the Holy Night are the same like universe, kind of. That makes sense. It's
All
I have
right.
Tsukihime for the
Yeah,
PlayStation. I'm
two
excited to break
franchises
that one out.
merged into one universe, basically.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fate is pretty complex. Like you need a guide to know how in which order you should watch the anime or play the game. It's like the universes are so dense. It's a really complex story.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
because
take
if
some
if
notes.
we're not talking about the games, then in terms of the anime, yeah, Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, probably the best place to start. And then there's also Heaven's Feel, which is a 3-movie series. And then there's also Fate Zero, which gives a little bit more context. And then there's the whole delve into Fate Grand Order, which is just a mess.
So is
Isn't
this?
that the one that the controversial one? What was it? The Prism Ilia or whatever it was named? Is that part of Fate as well?
Oh yeah, Prisma
Yeah,
Ilia, yeah. It's in Prisma Ilia is in like its own other universe.
Yeah.
Um,
The Fate is complex.
So is
complicated.
Fate kind of like the Legend of Heroes series, to where it's so much at this point that new players have trouble starting? Because, like, they're coming up on the 13th game in the Legend of Heroes saga. That's part of the main Zemurian arc right now. And then that's going to be the next game coming out in Japan is the last game in the Zemurian arc, and then they're going to do something. They're going to go somewhere else, I think.
There's a lot of Fate, yeah.
It's almost too
Yeah.
much. It's like, okay, it's like One Piece. It's like, okay, well, guess
No,
we're
no,
not doing that.
it's nowhere near One Piece.
Or
You
Detective
can actually
Conan,
watch.
yeah.
You can actually watch Fate in this lifetime.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks. I put that on my list, actually, on the list of games to start looking at. Lane, what's your number two?
And my number two is, I mean, it doesn't reach number one because you'll see. But my number two is the best Xeno game, and that's Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I still think is the best Xenoblade game.
Have you played
Not Torna,
X?
the original one. I have not played X because
Okay.
I don't have Wii U. But out of the trilogy, I think second one is the best one. It had the best combat in my opinion. I know people hate the blade system being quote unquote gacha because you have to open the crystals to get them, but you can farm the crystals very easily. So
Yeah, I never got Cosmos.
I enjoyed the fact that if you play it again, you can get different blades. It like you rarely get the same ones, and there was a ton of them. There was like 50 plus unique blades
There's
to
so
use,
many.
and even though there were some that were obviously like the strongest ones, you could use whoever you want. It's maybe on some of the like post game super bosses you needed specific blades, but like you could use anyone you want, and it was fine. I really liked the cast, the characters of the second game. Uh, the third one also has good characters, but I enjoyed the second one more.
Yeah, I gotta say, the characters in the third one, because I'm only like 9 hours into the third one right now, and the characters so far are just not memorable. Like, the entire cast of two was very memorable,
Yeah,
exceedingly so. Like, every time, oh, I already forgot the guy's name. The dude with the turtle. He was just on
Z.
the Zeke. Yeah, man. Like, every time he showed up, I knew it was gonna be a good time. And like
Yeah,
Tora
Z
was just
was
a
great.
pervert, and like it was.
Nia was great.
Yeah, Nia was great. Like the
Every version of Poppy, like the cast of the second game was great. Um, And yeah, I think the combat system was just like it started very slow. It's a slow burner. But once you get to the point where you can use 3 blades on each character and you can swap around and everything, like there was so many combos and so many different things and builds and customization you could do. It was overwhelming for a lot of people. And like the third game streamlined it with the jobs quite a bit. Because you do have 6 characters in battle, but they can only have 1 job. But in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you could basically have 3 different setups
Yeah,
on
it was
each character.
it was a lot.
It was really in depth, quite complex.
Like it was a really
Uh,
good ending to the story that started with Klaus.
yeah, I love the story. I love the characters. I love the exploration. I hated the field skills that you had to put
Oh,
them
fuck the
in the
field
party.
skills. Oh my god, they
That
were awful.
that was terrible. They definitely made it better in the third game. But like other than that, the exploration was really good. The game on Switch looked beautiful. Like the locations, some of the locations looked absolutely beautiful. Um, yeah, I know people always bring up the fun service, but I'm like, sure, I don't really care. It was like it was there, and not every single blade was fun service, but
There were some that were, but yeah, the
this
game is Xenoblade
the
2
setting.
is like Xenoblade is so good.
Yeah, the whole franchise is, but I still think that the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2, not Torna, the original one, is the best Xenoblade game that they've made.
Well, I think you
I
need to go play X because X, in my opinion, is the best, and they haven't gotten
well,
close yet.
I'm not buying a Wii U for one
Well,
game,
you
so
can't now. That's the bad part about X, and this is something that really sucks for anybody who wanted to play it now. They took the servers down. So one of the big parts about X you could do is like there was a huge multiplayer like raid component to it.
yeah, it was almost like an MMO kind of thing.
Yeah, and like you got tons of materials based on how you had your stuff set up and which factions you supported. Like Xenoblade Chronicles X was like the closest to an MMO that they have come that Nintendo has made like since Fantasy
Like
Star. Like it was amazing.
if they ever bring it to somewhere where I can play it, then I will absolutely play it. But until then, the second game is easily the best one in my opinion.
That's fair.
I spent like 400 hours in the game, at least.
Well,
I've played it 3 times.
I have something to say about Xenoblade on my next one, so we'll see.
So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, definitely my number 2 on the Switch.
Anybody else play Xeno 2?
Yeah, I played it a little bit. It's definitely one I have actually been considering getting back into playing. Yeah, that man, pretty cool setting. Great characters, love the characters. Combat's good, although I did kind of like the combat in the third game a little better. But right now, if I were to go back to either the second one or the third one, I'm definitely going to go back to the second one and continue to play it more.
Combat gets
Uh,
better in the second one.
that's good.
It's a slow burner, but it does get way better.
Yeah, especially when you get the crit bill going on Rex, you could just infinitely spam attacks. It's wild.
That's one build. Yeah. I mean, you can say in Xenoblade 3 when they basically split the characters, right? Like half of them work as Xenoblade 1 and half of them work as Xenoblade 2. And the ones that have arts from Xenoblade 2 are way more fun to use, in my opinion.
Mm.
Because they work on the Xenoblade 2 system, which was just better.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually considering putting Xenoblade 2 as on my top 5 favorites, but I figured someone else here, would have way more knowledge and gameplay experience than I would in that game, so I figured I'd let someone else do that, and I'd focus on one I'd put more time in. But yeah, Xenoblade 2, I definitely need to get back to playing that one.
Yeah, I didn't get that far in it either, and it was a little overwhelming because it was only like my maybe third or fourth RPG I've ever played, really.
Oh,
So I put it down, but I do want to go back to it at some point. And I love the world. The combat system was a little challenging for me. Again, I was new to RPGs, so I think if I go back there, I'm going to start with the first one and then go to the second one in that order. But I liked it. It was just a little overwhelming, but I thought it was a beautiful game too.
I can see that the combat being like
There's a
too
lot
hard
of
to get.
systems. Like, there's more
Yeah,
systems in Xenoblade than
Yeah.
any other RPG. Like, it is very system heavy.
that is a lot of it. Yeah, I can see like someone picking it up and be like, I have no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
especially when like someone new to RPGs.
All right,
Yeah, that can
Soul.
definitely be overwhelming.
Yeah,
What's your number 2, Soul?
All right, so my number 2. We're going back to one of my favorite franchises for Nintendo, back to Metroid. This time, we're going full 3D. We drop in the Prime series. Another franchise that I thought was pretty much dead and gone that Nintendo would never ever dream of going back to. It's never coming back. They don't even like it. Why are we even talking about this? It's never gonna happen. Stop thinking about it. Oh, wait a minute. They're actually gonna do a fourth Metroid Prime. Holy bananas! That's amazing. Well, where has it been for the past 7 years? Oh, I don't know. It's in development. It's in development hell, I guess. Oh man. Well, can they at least bring like the Prime games to like the later consoles so we can play it again? The last time released it was on the Wii. So it's like I don't know. I mean, hopefully they are. I've heard rumors of it, and then bam, Metroid Prime remastered Shadow drops. What is this? Are you kidding me? You shadow drop this out of the middle of nowhere and you make it look amazing. It plays well. They fix up a lot of the bugs. The audio is great. The visuals are great. They have so many quality of life changes. They give you options for different controller setups, so you can actually play it in a more traditional modern day twin stick first person shooter, or you can play it like how it was in the GameCube. And I think they even have it where you can play it similar to like the Wii with the motion controls. I think. Not 100% on no, not 100% sure on that one. Need to verify that one. But the fact you can do all this, on a game that they just shadow drop and be like, oh yeah, here, by the way, yeah, we haven't talked about Prime 4 in a while, so here, enjoy. It's like just blew my mind. I immediately like stopped everything I did a stream that day, for remastered. Absolutely phenomenal remaster of an already phenomenal game, and that was a system seller back for the GameCube
It was.
in 2002. Like that was a killer app, you know, and it still holds so much weight, so much sway in the community to this day. You know, no game series I have seen to date for Nintendo have I seen people clamoring so much for, outside of a new Prime release. Like that is the absolute goat. And you know, this is like a nice tasty entree for what'll come for the now more revealed Prime 4. But boy, was this a meal.
Yeah, I beat the original on GameCube. Definitely, it's like amazing for its time. So I'm glad that they brought that up to the Switch. Hopefully they bring 2 and 3 up as well.
I hope so. I got a feeling they probably won't arrive until like the Switch 2.
That's okay.
But that's fine. Completely fine. I'll definitely support it.
Anybody else fan of the Prime series?
Yeah, I've come to eventually appreciate this game. I think it's a combination of just a generational thing and being, Super Metroid being my favorite game of all time. That
Same.
this ain't it for me. But I appreciate it when I stop trying to think of it as, something in the Metroid series directly. And also, when I first played this back on the GameCube, um, I was already playing other first person shooters, and this did not play like that. Um, so once I got to a point where I kind of disconnected both of those things, I'm like, all right, this is a good one of these. the environments I think are really good, and the music is also excellent in this game as well. Um, Also, just side note, this game, there is a version of Dolphin that runs this game excellent. If you
Nice.
want to jump through those hoops, it is awesome. Um, but yeah, Metroid Prime One is the good one, and I appreciate this game. Um, but it ain't Metroid. It's not the same.
I mean,
What's
it's a completely different experience
Yeah,
for
totally,
Metroid.
totally.
Yeah, definitely.
And
But yeah, it's not.
that's it took me a very long time because I just when I first touched this game, I absolutely hated it. And I've come around, but you know, that's about as far as I can come with this. And then
Sure.
2 and 3, I
That's
just
all
don't like
right.
at all.
Yeah,
what about
two had a lot of great stuff, but the thing that frustrates with me with two was uh the resource management they force you to do for the light and dark ammo when you're going in
Mhm.
the light and dark worlds. I hated that. Um, and the difficulty really ramps up in the second one. Like going into the dark world areas, especially because I'm actually stuck on the speed boost monster. I have yet to defeat that thing, and it's like I beat the first game. You know, I have some issues with some of the things they did do with the first Prime. But I got through it. I beat it. The back. The Metroid style gameplay of adventuring through an area, um, getting stronger, coming back to previous areas that you've already gone through with limited ability, and rediscovering new stuff in those areas because of your new abilities. It's a huge staple of the Metroid style of gameplay. And they definitely do it in Prime. The problem is that the way they did it in Prime, it overemphasized too much backtracking. Usually, when you backtrack in a Metroid game, you backtrack in a way that is beneficial to you usually in terms of time. You can get back to areas using shortcuts and stuff that weren't available to you before your power up upgrades. You can get to areas way faster. You feel like you've got past, you know, the early difficult stuff, and now you're you're reaping the benefits of your hard work. Whereas in the backtracking in Metroid Prime, it felt that you didn't really feel that. You still had to go through this ridiculous labyrinth of mazes to get to the place that the game is saying, "Hey, there's something going on over here." And so it's not like in the original Metroid, and Super Metroid, where it's like, okay, well, I should go back over here. I can go this way now. I can cut through it this way. It'll shave off my time. It's more like, okay, where is this at? What junction do I need to go to? There's certain things that they do allow you to kind of experience, like using the grappling hook or like using something in the wall to help bypass certain areas a bit faster, but you still have to go through those areas. And that's the part that kind of brings it down a little bit for me, is too much backtracking without a way to really kind of feel the benefits of you got stronger. Here's a new way you can get to this area without going through this huge maze. That was kind of the that was kind of a issue for Prime for me. But other than that, I absolutely loved Prime.
I think
I
what you're
never got
saying
a
there,
chance to
like I
play.
would.
Oh, sorry, I
Sorry,
never
go
got to
ahead.
play the third one. I heard it was a bit linear. I'd like to check it out eventually, but yeah, the second one did a lot of interesting stuff with some upgrades. But yeah, I don't like it as much as the first Prime.
Yeah, and what you're saying about the backtracking and stuff, like I'll even take a step like everything about the exploration and the action and everything is just way too slow and cumbersome. Like going back through all of that, going through all those first person jump puzzles,
I agree.
the
Yeah,
exploration of, you have to pull out the visor to scan a thing, you got to hold it down. You got, you have the stuff that you can just straight up miss if you didn't catch it the first time. Um, and some of that is technical limitations, some of that's just the controller limitations, but it's all just so slow. So it's hard to put it, in there as a Metroid game for me. But That I think is the biggest problem. Is that it's just too slow.
Yeah, it's. I would definitely say it's definitely on the slower side. It can be a bit cumbersome dealing with that stuff. I think with just the core gameplay, it's still, in my opinion, it still definitely qualifies it as a Metroid style experience. But it does lose some of the real good benefits of the 2D style game during translation, which kind of holds it back a little bit. But for what we got, just the fact that they were even able to accomplish this is still a pretty amazing feat on the GameCube, no
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move to our number one?
I've got a number one. We can do that.
Hey,
I've got a number one. Yeah.
I got one of those too.
So my number one is the only one where I'm going to use multiple of a series in our chat here. The Xenoblade Chronicles series, the whole damn series is just amazing. So I have up here on the screen, so this was recorded a couple years ago. I have the collector's edition of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3, and X. I have Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3. I think I've got Xenogears somewhere upstairs. I've also got Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii. I've got some guides. Like, I love this series. This is Nintendo's best RPG series in 2024. I look forward to them to continue making more stuff from the series. Monolith Soft is wonderful. Xenoblade Chronicles X is one of the greatest games ever made. Like, you get to, like, build and set up your mechs and fly, and you get to do, like, a lot of, like, really complicated combat things with your mechs. And the combat in these games, I would say, is a lot more complex than what you're expecting in most RPGs. Like, the systems in these games are just massive. Xenoblade Chronicles X has probably one of the best combat systems. You can get lots of different classes. You can mix and match your palettes, kind of like you had in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but you get a mech on top of that, and there's gearing, and like you build different parts of your mech, and there's fuel for it. Like, y'all, this series is just absolutely incredible. And I would highly recommend Xenoblade Chronicles to anybody that hasn't played it. Do I have a favorite? X. X is my favorite. I absolutely love X. You can't really play it now because the servers don't work right anymore. But God, this series is just so good. Like, Xenoblade 1 is really an incredible story. It probably has one of the better stories in 1. And then once you beat the story in 1, you get to see how it links into 2 later on. And I'm kind of seeing how it links into 3. I'm not quite sure yet. But given that I've beat the games, and I'm working through 3 now, like, I absolutely love this series. If you haven't played it, go play it. We talked a lot about 2 already. But I think, go ahead.
It does link to 3, by the way. It does link to 3. It very well. The whole trilogy, basically. Like, I don't think X is part of it, like, story-wise, but the trilogy does, like, all link into each other.
Yeah, like, you could see some of the combat of the mechs on screen right now. Like, there's some bosses that you can't kill unless you're in your mech. Like, they're just, like, these towering kaiju things. And X is just a game that is trapped on the Wii U. It deserves better. God, I love this series. It's so good. Highly recommend. Give it a
Right, how
shot.
far Monolith Soft got. For
Yeah.
sure.
Like, Xenoblade Chronicles X is, like, the largest of their worlds, I think. And it is just massive. I don't think anybody that hasn't played... Has anybody here besides me played X?
I have X, but I'm kind of sad now because you said it may not be as
As
good of an
good,
experience
yeah.
with. But I have X, and honestly, I'm debating if that will be my first Xenoblade or Xenoblade Chronicles.
I would
definitive.
recommend... So X has the best combat. Dak, I have those things turned off right now. X has the absolute best combat, in my opinion, but the worst story. Like, the story in X is not as good as 1, 2, and 3. Like, the story in
So
the trilogy is
it's more
amazing.
it's more multiplayer focused.
No, I mean, only in part of it. Like, I never did. I only did some of the raid content as multiplayer, but it's a very single player focused game like the rest of it. It's a very narrative story. It's just the story's not as good as the trilogy. Like, if you want like the best combat in the series, go play X. If you want the best story, go start with a trilogy and beat 1, beat 2, then beat 3.
Yeah. I only know Elmo because she was a blade in Xenoblade Chronicles too.
Yeah, but like she's like so important. The Xenoblade Chronicles X ends on like the biggest cliffhanger in any game series I could remember, and it's like there's so much opening for another game. They just need to do it again. So I absolutely love the series. Go give it a shot. Okay, I'm done talking
I,
about Xenoblade now.
I wish they brought X to just anywhere else besides VU
Yeah,
Yeah.
to make it just accessible because VU is the console of all time. So
it is a console of all time.
like it's not worth for me buying a console for one game. Um, and again, like if the servers are done and everything, they need to bring X. So
You
they
can
remastered the
emulate it,
first one.
but the servers, I don't know if there's private servers, but you get
Mm.
so many resources by having the online. Like, it's gonna slow down your progression in the game a lot if you don't have the online play.
Like they remastered the first one. The second one is there, the third one, and everything. Like I never heard that apparently the View controller kind of thing is like hard to you know remake for whatever, but they did it with other View games.
Yeah, I
Why
mean,
not with why not with Xenoblade X?
so for X, I actually bought the larger battery for the Wii U controller because like it would only last like 3 hours, so I imported a battery from Japan so I could play the game for like 6, 7 hours straight. Because you had to have the gameplay to the gamepad to play it. It wouldn't work with any other controller.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that it is possible.
Oh yeah, it just had a bunch of menus on it that you couldn't access anywhere else. They could easily put that.
They can easily put it in the game itself without the needing of having like a second screen on your controller.
Yeah. Anyway, Xenoblade, go play it. Highly recommend. Sky, what's your number one?
So my number one, I'm gonna give a quick honorable mention. This would be my number 6 overall, but it's Tower of Jiraga. I played that on the Switch. It's a very old game. Arcade Archives, I think is how I played it. I even got the anime. It's not the best game, like gameplay wise. It's very hard. It's like an arcade game, lots of secrets. But I just fell in love with the lore. It's also very inspirational, I think, even for like Zelda. And I just really love the lore and like trying to learn more about how it was developed. So maybe I'll talk about that one more in some other time. But we talked about this to death already. Fire Emblem Three Houses. It was my first RPG, JRPG that I played that had a party in it, and getting to have tea with Edelgard and Fem Byleth, and getting to eat with all of my party members, and actually the side quest level helped to make your bonds better. It still had the Fire Emblem, animations for the battles. It's just, and I also played that. My daughter was like 12 at the time. We both played it simultaneously and got to talk about it and what was going on. Again, just overall my favorite Switch game for several reasons, and made me fall in love with the Fire Emblem series in general. But yeah, that's my number one, Fire Emblem Three Houses there.
Seems like a lot of people liked this game tonight.
Yeah, and I only did one route too, so I haven't gone back to the other routes. But I think that's because I didn't want to. I was actually really satisfied with uh, Edelgard's route, and I was like, I'm really satisfied at this point. I don't need to know more about what happened to the other houses, but I do want to go back at some point.
Very, very nice. I think this is the most popular game among the group tonight. I think 3 people picked this as part of their top 5. It's pretty exciting. All right. Doctor. Captain Corn. What you got?
That's me. Captain Corn is what they always call me. They look at my name and they say, "Yeah, the captain. There he is." Real quick, I said earlier that first party Nintendo stuff has been hitting hard. I don't have a Mario game on my list, which seems like a crime, because all the Mario games on the Switch are excellent. I wish that Super Mario Maker 2 was as good as the Wii U version, but it unfortunately couldn't be because you only have one screen. You don't have 2 screens.
Yeah.
This makes it harder. Odyssey is an incredible 3D Mario game. The Wonder was a great time co-op. All that stuff was really good. Anyways, number 1 for me. This is another situation where the strength of the platform was what made it. It's what made me play this game in the first place, because it was a moment of like, well, this game's going to be on the Switch. It would be cool to have on the Switch. I had a PC. I could play it on PC, but because it's on Switch, I'm going to pick this up and play it. And it's one of my favorite games of all time. It is Hades. It is the best roguelike. It is the best game from the studio. It is the only game from the studio that is getting a sequel. It is incredible the way that the combat and the action for each run goes, the way that you combine your abilities as you go deeper and deeper into the dungeon. The story is completely like there's almost no limit. Like it seems like there is infinite dialogue in this game. Like every time you would play this game for hundreds of hours, and you would just keep going back and you talk to people and they would have something new to say to you. And it was all very well written, very, great sense of humor, great, great story. And it was, yeah, it came out right on the right platform for me to want to play it. And I had a great time with it. And I don't know what else. Like Hades is incredible.
Yep,
Like if you have
Hades,
not
I
played
agree.
Hades, this is the roguelike.
Yeah, just go play. If you have
this is
never
the
liked
Switch game,
roguelikes
like-
ever,
Yeah.
go play it. This is the best roguelike, right? Light, whatever the hell it's called. It's the best one of that genre, period. Full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played quite a few like Dead Cells and whatnot, but Hades is Super Giant Games magnum opus.
Yeah, I don't think the
Uh,
second one will be able to live up to how good the first one was.
I've seen a lot of the second one. I watched one of my favorite YouTubers play. It's good, but yeah, I think the first one, it was just they just nailed it. They
Yeah,
just nailed everything about the combat, the story, the way the story was told. Like different, all the weapons had like 5 different play styles that you could unlock.
it was such
it
a
was
good game.
it was insane. Hades is like goated for sure.
Good choice. I played this on Steam, so
I played on Switch the first
Also
one.
a great place to play it. Play Hades wherever you can get it.
yeah, I actually
Yeah.
specifically chose games for my list that were not able to be played anywhere else. But
So
that's just
what
me.
I thought I would do with this list. And then as I thought about the platform and the strength of the platform, a lot of it was, what game was best suited to play on the Switch.
Like
And
Hades, amazing,
that's
I would
where a
say.
lot of, otherwise like Money Puzzle Exchanger was on the Neo Geo. That's, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on it otherwise unless it was in my hands and I could, throw it in a bag and take it with me to conference or all the time I have spent playing Money Puzzle Exchanger on an airplane. And that's where I started going with my list. And Hades just being on the Switch and being a thing that's like, oh, I can play this on TV or I can play it, handheld. I could take it with me. This would be a good thing to have and get it on the Switch. And it, otherwise, if it was just something that I thought, oh, I like roguelikes, I'll get it on Steam eventually, eventually word of mouth probably would have caught up to me. But I probably wouldn't have jumped into it had it not launched on the Switch the way that it did.
Yeah, I would say a game that's great because it exists also on the Switch is the Ori series. Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisp. God, I love those two games so much. Highly recommend. Anyway, Hades, that's gonna be that's such a good game. I can't believe I
I need
forgot
to
that was
play it.
even on this system.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ron, what's your number one game?
So my number one game probably doesn't come as a surprise for some people, but it's Tsukihime Piece of Blue Glass Moon.
Mm,
Another
nice.
visual novel in the Fate universe. Um, it
Yeah.
really started to pull me in when I heard from certain streamers that I watch, who make content about Fate that it was getting a remake, and um it was at about that time where uh a lot of people were really ready for something like this to come out, and when it finally did, um from what I hear, physical copies sold out within a month of it coming out. um and I was like, I really need to get this, really soon, and I finally got it, and I've since put like, well over 30 hours on it in the past 2-3 weeks. Um, and there's a lot of reading. Again, it's a visual novel, but the story it tells is it's grabbing, and it's such to a point where basically anyone could pick it up and start to understand what's going on without any real background to the series. Right now, I'm on my second playthrough of the second route, but there are a lot of bad ends too. And some of them make you go back a couple of days at the minimum.
That sounds rough. I gotta say, I have never really been big into visual novels. I've heard a lot of good things about a lot of them. Would you say, of the two that you mentioned, for anybody listening to this in the future, if you could tell people, hey, there's one visual novel you need to play, what would you say it is?
Out of the two that I talked about, of what, Fate and Tsukihime, I would say that uh Fate gives you more content and it's also cheaper, but Tsukihime looks, and the soundtrack's really good as well. It's just amazing. And the characters are really easy to fall in love with. Just scrolling through the product page on Nintendo, some of the side characters are really great. Arahiko, the red-haired dude. He's he's like a comedy relief character, and it always puts a smile on my face to see him.
Yeah, I picked up the Tsukihime for PlayStation 4 and I got into it because of Melty Blood. Um, I
Yeah.
was playing some
Yep.
Melty Blood and the characters, I think some of the characters are in Tsukihime or from Tsukihime or in Melty Blood. And I think there's vampires. Is that correct? In
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't go wrong with vampires, and I love the art, the way the art looks. The soundtrack for Melty Blood is amazing. So I would think the Tsukihime soundtrack's probably really good as well. So I'm excited. And the cool thing is on Switch. Yeah, I have it for PlayStation, but being able to play this visual novel on the go is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I got introduced to Tsukihime because of Melty Blood as well, so I've been wanting to check this one out too.
Good deal. All right, Lane. Next to last for the night. What we got?
Well, my number one is pretty obvious for people who know me.
Can I guess?
If you want.
Is it Unicorn Overlord?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Oh.
My number one Switch games is the entire Monster Hunter franchise.
Oh, yeah, duh. That was stupid. I knew that.
Monster Hunter Stories, sure, great spin-offs. Monster Hunter Rise, which is a Switch game, or like came out on Switch. Amazing game, but like my favorite, even though it is a 3DS game, is Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which I think is still the best Monster Hunter that ever came out. There's just so many things because every weapon they added like 5 hunter styles that you could use with every weapon. So you have 14 weapons with 5 styles each. There's a massive amount of customization. Then they added the hunter art, which they later changed in Rise into its own thing, into the Switch skills. But the hunter arts are the OG ones. It's just there's tons of weapons. There's a ridiculous amount of content. The biggest roster in the entire franchise. The whole game can be played full co-op with 3 other people. It's Monster Hunter is absolutely incredible. I have put over 2,000 hours in every single game since 2004. I absolutely love this franchise. My favorite franchise of all of them. It's just that there's never gonna be time where I'm not gonna put thousands of hours in a Monster Hunter game. And Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, like I could look at my save, but like I had like 3 characters that I played with different people, and I must have like 5,000 hours in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. It's an absolutely incredible game.
And because the balance must be kept, I don't like Monster Hunter at all. I've tried like 5 of the games.
Yeah, I understand that. It's understandable. I know a lot of people who try Monster Hunter and they bounced off of it. And I also know a lot of people who came back later and then just got addicted to the gameplay. It's a really hard game to get into, but once you get into it, it's absolute masterpiece. It's my favorite Capcom franchise, my favorite gaming franchise. Absolutely, just there's nothing better than Monster Hunter for me. So I am extremely excited for Monster Hunter Wilds, but I don't think it's gonna top Generations Ultimate for me. It's just Generations Ultimate was something special.
I think I have this one for the Wii. Was this originally on the Wii?
I think
No,
so. Wasn't it?
Monster Hunter 3 was on the Wii.
Oh, okay.
Then they made portable third for the PSP. which was like an extended version. They always make like they made 4 and then they made 4 Ultimate.
Okay, so I have Monster Hunter Freedom Unite for PSP. I've got World for 2 systems.
That's one. That's Monster Hunter Freedom Unite is the second one. It's the enhanced version of the second one.
I have Rise and I have Try for the Wii.
Yeah, Try is for Wii.
I have Generations. I haven't played it because I played Rise. I liked Rise.
Generations is the old school one. Rise is more like new, but Generations Ultimate is the old school Monster Hunter. But it has just it was kind of like I think it was 25 years like anniversary kind of game. So they just took absolutely everything and just crammed it into the game. There's a absolutely ridiculous amount of content in the game.
You know what? I think I did play the demo of Generations, if there was one.
I think so, but the demos usually they are not a good way to introduce people to the game.
No.
I heard a lot of people try the demo and they just like they cannot get into it because they
Yeah.
don't explain anything. They give you 14 weapons and they just like go. So I think Monster Hunter is best if you have someone who knows the franchise to like kind of ease you into it, who plays with you and like helps you understand all the systems and everything, because it can also be pretty overwhelming. But yeah, it's just Monster Hunter is my favorite franchise of all time.
I really liked Rise as well, and I was bummed out that none of my Monster Hunter sickos wanted to play Rise. They all wanted to sit on World, and I'm just like, Rise is so cool.
See,
like
World
it's just got the style and it's got the bunnies and all that. You ride a dog.
World is one of my like it's not even in my top 5. World,
Yeah.
like I liked it, I enjoyed it, but like the Genesis Ultimate and Rise, they are more Monster Hunter. Like everyone who used to play the older ones and then they went to World, it's like if you went from like a Lindt chocolate to a digestive biscuit in a way. Like it lost so much charm that the older games had and exchanged it for graphics and basically like just graphical fidelity. But like it lost so much.
Oh yeah, Rise had a lot of charm.
And Rise brought back a lot of it. But it works on the more modern system. But they brought more the colorful stuff, the joke weapons, the silliness of this franchise. Like the franchise has so much charm that the world was just too like serious. That's why I do. And I'm hyped for Wild, but I don't expect I'm gonna like it more than Rise because Wild is basically a continuation of World. So I much enjoy the more colorful and more silly like Monster Hunter with all the costumes and weapons and everything than in Rise, sorry, in World, where it was more grounded. And it brought a lot of new people in, which is cool, but also a lot of people say that the World is the best one. I'm like, well, you only played World and Rise. There's not much, and people like World because it looks pretty much. But like the stuff you could do in Rise, you could never do in World. Like Rise is insanely mobile and fast paced.
Well,
Yeah,
I kind of just said Unicorn Overload and as jokingly because everyone that knows you knows Monster Hunter is.
Yeah, it's
you obsessed with that series.
Absolutely obsessed. Yeah, it's just I don't think any series will ever top Monster Hunter for me as my favorite gaming franchise.
Well, last but not least, last game of the night. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and hopefully, was this good? Are we having a good time? Yeah. It's good. We want to do episode 35 soon. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, last but not least, what is your number 1?
So it's funny you brought up Unicorn Overlord because it was a game that I like. The gameplay style is something I really wanted to play. I never played the other games that kind of preceded it. You know, the
Ogre
Tactics and
Battle.
Horror games. Yeah, I played other games that kind of did like a real time uh battling. You know, but it was still like turn based, but it was like real time. And so that game like was like super excited. You know, for me, and so I really wanted to put that on the list. The problem is that I haven't dedicated enough time to feel like I can justify putting on the list. So unfortunately, that is um, that's a runner-up for me for
It is a
number
great
one.
game.
It's
It's a
so
great
good,
game, and I
so
need to
good.
go. It's so beautiful,
It's
visually, it's
amazing.
incredible. It's so good. Uh, but yeah, I'll definitely play more of it so that I feel more justified putting it on my list. But for me personally, growing up with the Nintendo games, the Nintendo generations, and being kind of my history and like fighting games stuff like that, I have to put Smash Brothers Ultimate as my number one. That's what sold the Nintendo Switch for me. I didn't buy a Nintendo console for quite a while after the GameCube. Um, the Wii was a really interesting experiment. I didn't really buy into like it felt like a really cool experiment with some really unique ideas, but way too low powered and too many third parties not knowing what to do with it. So we got a lot of shovelware. And then the Wii U came out, and half the people didn't know if it was a separate console, or and I don't think Nintendo even really understood what they were doing, and so it kind of fell to the wayside. But when the Switch came out, it made sense, and when Ultimate was announced, like once I saw the gameplay, I'm like, okay, I'm back in. Super Smash Brothers has been a huge part of my life franchise ever since the original Nintendo 64 game. You know, the fact that you can actually fight other Nintendo characters is absolutely unheard of. At one point in time, it actually was going to be unheard of. There was no way Nintendo was going to let Sakurai do this, you know, with the Nintendo franchise. Like with Nintendo characters fighting other Nintendo characters, you're kidding me. That we're not going to greenlight this, you know. And so he decided, all right, we're going to make it. We're going to make it look different. We're going to make it look like just a generic, like a different kind of fighting game. You know, that's a platforming game. You know, we'll make it look, you know, inoffensive, but we'll secretly still be putting Nintendo characters in there. And then several months later, you know, he got caught. It gets presented again. The executives see it, and they're like, you know what, this actually looks pretty good. Maybe we should greenlight this thing. And ever since they released it on the 64, I've been a huge fan of it. It would be a game that I would play with my friends like every weekend, you know. And then the next generation comes out, Super Smash Brothers Melee, you know, play that, you know, and like Halo every single weekend. We were playing it all the time. And so like I have a huge connection to the Smash Brothers games, even the consoles I didn't own. I still played Smash Brothers with my friends. And then Ultimate comes out, and quite literally the whole cast is here. A huge celebration of not just all the different Smash Brothers, but fighting games in general and just games in general. Because now we have the entire cast of all the previous characters, including characters from completely unrelated franchises, basically coming together in one big Smash Bros. Tournament, and just kind of like a fun celebration of just video games. And
They
while I
even got
haven't stuck
Rathalos
with
in.
it, what's that?
They even got Rathalos from Monster Hunter in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see, even Monster Hunter's represented. See, um, not Ryu Hayabusa though. Yeah, that was a misstep.
So I gotta
Mhm.
say,
Or Waluigi.
I am
We didn't get
really
Waluigi.
I
We didn't get oh, what's the guys? What's like we were literally just talking about him in
Oh,
Super
Gino.
Mario RPG. Yeah.
Gino, yeah.
Yeah, Gino. Yeah.
I,
But
I,
other than that,
I think
man.
Nintendo's trolling with these characters
Like
at this point.
I played Smash Brothers on the 64 to death. I played Melee to death. I thought the Wii version was not good.
Yeah,
Um,
the Wii version, I mean, the nice thing about the Wii version is it gave us the first time we had third-party characters.
Yeah.
So we got Sonic and we got Snake, you know, and it had a really good like single player story campaign, which is kind of lacking in Ultimate. Ultimate kind of went a different route. Kind of wish they would have put that effort with the single player campaign in Ultimate, but yeah, the Wii version not the greatest. I hated the random tripping.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
Wii version
never
was
again.
also really bad.
Yeah, it had some great ideas, but the execution was not my favorite.
Ultimate, though, like, I wanted to have this on my list. The problem, though, I used to play. So I think the Wii. No, maybe it was this version. Which one's the first one that added Sonic?
It was the Wii version.
Okay. I played in a tournament with that one. And I played Sonic, and I won that tournament with Sonic.
Oh wow.
And Sonic was so busted on the Wii version. It was just stupid broken. Then they nerfed him heavily for the subsequent versions.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Marth and Melee. Marth, very broken in Melee, and then nerfed to
Oh,
the
yeah.
ground in the subsequent releases. Like, I
Yep.
love Smash Brothers Ultimate, and I think that sounds like a pretty good game we could play as an Eternia
Oh,
group.
absolutely. I'd be down. I've actually been wanting to do like Saturday Night Smash Ultimate with like peeps, you know.
We could
That'd be super fun.
set that
I'd love
up.
to do that.
My
We do like a little
main
mini tournament bracket. That'd be great.
my main in
Yeah.
this game is Mithra and Pyra from
No,
Xenoblade.
I actually just started playing them. Like I really like their combo.
They're so
It's
good.
so much fun. I'm starting to put more time into them. My original main was of course Samus because, you know,
Oh
Metroid.
yeah.
And then eventually it became Captain Falcon because of how fast he is. And then once Melee came out, Samus felt way too slow to me, and I couldn't really get into what they did with Captain Falcon. But instead they had Sheik, and Sheik was my main.
Sheik was good.
Oh man, Sheik was so good. And then the Wii came out and they destroyed Sheik. I was so upset. All I had was like Diddy Kong to fall back on. I was like, man, I don't know about this, you know. Um, and then, but eventually I come back around to like Zero Suit Samus and then Samus again. Especially because I my skills are not as sharp as they used to be. You know, I don't spend a huge amount of time practicing and playing like I used to, so I'm way more rusty. I'm not as, you know, reaction time's a bit slower. So characters like Zero Suit, while I love playing them, they can be pretty squishy, and my reflexes are not fast enough to avoid, you know, really getting punished. And so suddenly Samus is there and it's like, hey, you know what? I'm not that fast, but boy, can I take a hit, and boy, can I hit back really hard. I'm like, you know what? You know what? I'm in.
You
I'm
know,
back with Samus.
I still can't believe. I remember when they were talking about the very last character they were gonna add, and
Oh my
everybody was
gosh.
so hopeful it was somebody else, and they put Sora. I'm like, are you kidding me? We waste this
I mean,
last slot on Sora.
let's be honest.
Ah,
The
that
people
is.
have been asking for Sora for what, over a decade at this point.
That
Yeah.
is
When
pretty iconic.
it's like no, Sora and was with Square Enix and like they're caught up with Disney. It's never going to happen. That's, you know, it's like trying to get Goku in here. Like stop it. You know, like, get some help, you know. You're come back
I'm
to
gonna be,
reality. It's never, and so the fact that they actually got Sora the last
I'm
character,
gonna be
while
honest.
it wasn't what some people wanted, but for a lot of people that have been wanting it for over a decade, it, you know, it made the impossible possible. It blew people's minds. And while I don't really play Sora, the fact that it gave that, you know, revelation to a lot of people who did want Sora, like it was, man, like I was so like I've seen so many reaction videos of people seeing the reveal of Sora. Just like I'd watch hours of it because I was just like, man, this is incredible. Like, you know.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I think Sora is like he's an iconic character, and he's definitely more unique than if they put in like Waluigi or Gino or whatever. Like I know people like them, but like, come on. First of all, like all the DLCs are third party, if or like they are not like Nintendo characters. I think.
I mean,
except for
Piranha
maybe.
Plant,
Yeah, I mean
Min
some of them are,
Min,
but
like Banjo
most
Kazooie.
most of them
Well-
are like outside of Nintendo, and I think like Sora is definitely not a bad addition.
Yeah, I mean the fans loved
I'm
it. People
still-
lost their
I'm
minds.
still upset that
Yeah.
Nintendo duped me into spending money on Kingdom Hearts product. I'm still mad. It's going to be fine eventually, but
We'll get through this.
I'm still upset.
Kingdom Hearts is I like. 3 was disappointing, but like overall, Kingdom Hearts is not a bad series.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
I see like Ultimate is the only Super Smash Bros. That I ever played because I
Oh.
didn't own previous Nintendo consoles. I only had 3DS and Switch. So, and I actually liked the like the single player campaign, the Light and Dark World. Like I actually enjoyed that because it was like a puzzle. The battles were mostly set up as puzzles, and I enjoyed them. I know people teased them with Olimar because he was like glitched or something.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed the campaign.
Yeah,
I should give the campaign a real shot. It's funny
I've
that
used-
like the later games, I just focus on like multiplayer
I've-
with my friends.
I've played it more than multiplayer, honestly. Like I've used characters that I've used was Wolf, Little Mac, and what's his face, Ridley.
Hey, Soul.
Not too big.
Why don't
Not
you-
too big.
They I don't know why they just click with me, so I use them a lot. And yeah, like I enjoy the single player campaign. I've played it with friends a few times, but like they kind of like bounced off real quick, and I'm not really into like online play, so I prefer to play with friends. So I didn't really play
Sure.
that much multiplayer, like in overall. But the single player campaign, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. It's one of like few Nintendo games that I actually really enjoyed.
You know, I think this is our longest Eternia episode ever. 3 hours and
wow.
40 minutes. Like, man. I have not been awake this long in a long time either. I'm getting old. So I will say that Soul, you set up a tournament, post about it, Eternia. I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of people showing up. I
Definitely.
know there's a lot of people. I will be there.
Yeah, I know a few people.
Before Metra came out, my main
I
where
don't remember how to play the game.
I played Cloud for a while, but he's too slow. I liked Sonic. I liked like Lucina was pretty decent. Pikachu. Yeah, lots of good characters. So really good way to finish the night.
It's a
Yeah.
masterclass for sure
Ganondorf.
in video games.
Ganondorf was actually fun. People, oh, he's too slow. I'm like, yes, but when he hits you,
Yeah, you're gonna regret that.
you're gonna feel it.
But you're gonna have a bad day.
I wish Ganondorf really had his own moveset, that felt more
Yeah.
like something from like, because he was just a Captain Falcon's copy, and they gave him a little bit something different in Ultimate, but it's like you're just playing Captain Falcon, edgier Captain Falcon.
Yeah, I didn't play the previous ones, so for me it was like,
Yeah, he's just Captain Falcon.
Yeah, he's literally just Captain Falcon from Melee. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen him like have his own. I mean, I'm sure someone's gonna get upset as another sword character. But yeah, have him as a sword character.
That's always funny to me though.
Yeah, although I don't
too many
think it
Fire
was.
Emblem characters.
Yeah, I think it was less the sword characters. It became more of there's too many Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care.
Is that how many is there? Like 5?
There's
There's like
I think
10.
there's a lot there.
Is there?
Marth, Roy.
I closed the site. Sorry.
Was it Ike, right?
I know there's Chrom,
Robin,
Lucina, Violet.
Yeah, Lucina, Byleth. What else we got here? Is that it?
I mean, there's quite a few. I
No,
think
there's
7.
more.
There's more.
Yeah, hold
I'm
tight.
counting. Let's see, 5, 6.
Yeah, those are my favorite. The
Fire
Fire
1,
Emblem
2, 3,
characters.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 Fire Emblem characters.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not that many.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
it's
it's not Game and Watch, you know. They need to put more characters from Game and Watch.
I think
Hmm.
it's the most
Game
within
&
the
Watch is really good in
series,
Ultimate.
though. No,
Oh, definitely the
Pokemon.
most.
No, Pokemon has 8 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than most, but it's like
Mario has
I don't-
9. Okay.
people are just salty because they didn't get Waluigi, but
Yeah.
they have 4 links and that's alright, or how many, whatever there
Yeah,
are.
that's yeah.
You know, they have 4 versions of Link and that's fine.
Like
and all of them have a sword.
Well, all right,
Yeah.
team. I appreciate everyone's discussions today. I think this is going to be a great first episode back after over 30-month hiatus. Thank you all for attending and watching and hanging out with the Eternia Archives crew. Anybody else have last thoughts before we call it a night?
Play Monster Hunter.
Play Monster Hunter. Play
And we
Zero.
do the turbo graphics next.
Mhm.
Turbo Graphics. Yeah, what do we want to have for our next? So I was actually thinking for the episode 35, we should redo the curated list. So for
I haven't
those,
played enough bad games.
okay, so for those of you that don't know what the curated list is, it's the worst RPGs ever made for each system. So
Time and Eternity.
Time and Eternity. That's, I mean,
I'm-
yeah, that's.
The slander.
I still want to buy and play that game unironically
Same.
on stream.
Ironically, I want to play.
I have it.
because
It's
don't-
I like
awful.
I like the
I don't think
idea
it's
of what
that
they were
bad.
doing. I like the idea of what they were trying to do. I don't think they executed it well, but I
No,
really
but I
want
don't
to see
think-
I want to see another attempt at it. I want to see like a playable anime, you know.
I don't think it's as bad as people say.
What if we pick a game and try one on the list and play it,
Oh.
and then come back with our thoughts?
Oh no. Like I have
That's the
played a lot of
35th.
the games on that list and they're terrible. Well, we could talk about it. Like I think next week we need to like skip because Soul and I were planning on doing something next Saturday. I think depending on what life is like. But yeah, so let's figure things out and we'll get another list together and I look forward to doing this again and rebooting the reason that Eternia started to begin with. So thank you all